Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show. The show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for April 2023, episode 74. My name is Jonathan Leung. I'm the producer, director, and editor here at the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, John. Just tired of, we've been getting enough rain in Texas. Normally we don't say that all year, times of the year, but I think we've had enough lately.
I think we've gotten so much, Tim, that the kids' Easter egg hunts this year are actually going to be Easter swims.
Yeah,
so I mean, we've literally gotten rain pretty much every week, at least for a couple of days every week. My backyard literally looks like a swimming pool. And I didn't even have to do any digging.
So you're sporting the Pac-Man Easter.
Yeah, we got it there. Pac-Man Easter shirt. I've also got my 7-Eleven hat. You'll remember that last time on the last live show, if you guys were watching, we advertised that 7-Eleven was doing some Pac-Man merchandising. Mm-hmm. So here we go. I've got my hat. Got this for my birthday, Tim, which was earlier this week. So my wife was nice enough to get that to me. So I'm very excited about the collaboration between 7-Eleven and Pac-Man. If you guys haven't checked out the stores yet, they've got the cherry Slurpee is now branded with, I forget who it is.
Yeah.
And then they've got the Clyde Coffee, and then they've got the cappuccino and stuff like this. So if you haven't been to your local 7-Eleven to check out some Pac-Man merchandise, you're missing out. That's what I'm saying. So, but anyway, Tim, yes, it has been wet, but other than that, how's your month been going?
Good. Just, had a trip to New Jersey, which we'll talk about, and had a good time there. Getting ready to go to El Paso in a couple of weeks, so I'll be out there. Hopefully get to go to Rubik's again and play some more games out there. Just never stops. Every time I think we kind of busy this week, next week won't be too busy. It just seems like it's busier. So never slows down, right?
Absolutely, Tim. Well, we're so glad that you guys are here with us tonight, and we're looking forward to answering some questions. And Tim, we got quite a few. This is going to be a busy show, because not only do we have the questions, we've got your trip to, where did you go in New Jersey now?
I went to Jersey Shore, up and down the shore. I stayed in Neptune, New Jersey, if people that know where that is, but I was kind of all over the shoreline, up and down. So,
but the place that you went to, the Silverball?
Oh, I went to Silverball, which was in something park. Somebody will help me in the chat room. Probably it was right near Neptune, like 4 miles. Asbury Park. That is correct. Asbury Park. And I went to Silverballs there, and they have a really big arcade. Lots of pinball games, from wood rails up to some of the brand new games. So had
and you have
a great
some pictures
time.
That you sent me.
Yeah.
And so we'll be showing those later in the show. We hope that you guys will stay tuned for that. Tim, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the live chat, though, as we normally do. Jumping General says, hey, guys, looking forward to the show. Big D Retro says, we'll miss the show tonight, but wanted to know if monitor starts out solid green, then shortly after collapses to the center as a colorful circle, is the monitor fried? So what do you think, Tim?
Well, it's not completely fried. It's definitely collapsing, and it needs repaired, but all of it's fixable. It needs probably a cap kit, and you may have some vertical IC issues. So we're going to have to dig into that a little deeper. But if it starts off green and everything looks good, you might touch up all those solders and make sure you're actually getting a good video connection. It's not just shutting down because it's not getting video. So do you actually hear the game playing? That's one thing that I would want to know.
Absolutely. Brexer Show's here. He says, hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
We got Hayesville Arcade. Awesome. Let's go. Watching from Kansas, Tim.
Okay.
So there we go. Current Phonograph is here. Greetings from California.
Nice.
So Nate Berg is here from Nova Scotia. Excuse me, Nova Scotia. Jumping General says, hey, I've got a Crazy Con cabinet. I'm replacing the power cord and power supply. Is it okay to wire the power cord directly into the switching power supply, or do I need some sort of fuse in between?
Well, it's always a good idea to have a fuse because you don't have to. You can wire it directly to answer your question, but we always want to have that fuse in case, let's say you have a lightning strike or something seriously wrong and you don't want that to go all the way through. You want it to hit that fuse and blow. Fuse will protect a lot of those vital components of your game rather than send the power all the way through it. That's kind of one of the purposes of a fuse, is the protection. And so I would highly recommend that you go through a fuse.
Absolutely. And we
It's
also
not
recommend,
hard.
I was about to say, also AC filters
Yeah.
are still good things to have. So an AC filter and a fuse are just still good things to have. Are they required? Like Tim said, not really. But if you get that big pop, let's say a lightning strike or a big power surge, you could damage your switching power supply instead of, so you're damaging a $30 to $50 part versus a, $5 or even $1 fuse?
Right.
I mean, that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So
you want to protect it and your main board and things like that, so you want to make sure that you don't have those power. Even like in the summer, we talk about it here in Texas a lot. When the air conditioner comes on, sometimes you'll even see our lights kind of dim for a second. It's a big power surge, and you don't want anything coming back through there that's going to damage that. So I would always put a fuse in there.
sounds good. And then Junger Dynamicker, I guess, says, greetings from late night Switzerland.
Nice.
Oh, Switzerland. That's
Very
awesome.
late.
Golly. So, well, we're so glad to have all of you here, whether it's the morning or the afternoon or the evening.
Right.
So
I don't know whether to say good morning, good night, or what, but thank you everybody for being here.
Absolutely. And so we will be getting to some questions here. We're very excited. We'll also be talking about some news recently, Tim. A lot of pinball news coming out of the Texas Pinball Festival. Our friend Mark was there, gave us some updates and things. And we'll also be talking about 2 games, Tim, we did not cover in the last episode. And we covered 3 in the last episode, right? It's amazing what's happening in pinball right now, so we'll be talking about that. Tim, I think Chuck E. Cheese is on the docket with some news about floppy disks that you may have seen in your life.
I've seen a few of them.
There you go. And some other things as well. So we're so glad that you're here. We're excited to get this show on the road. So Tim, without any further ado, and with the live chat all cut up, let's move on with some questions. And this first one here, Tim, is from Philip. Now, this is a little bit different. Philip sounds like he's actually working on an arcade 1-up, Tim.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get to Phil's question here. I have a Miss Pac-Man Partycade. I put a new Arcade 1-Up PCB board in that does not only Miss Pac-Man, but Galaxian and Galaga as well. The system boots up fine except for the joystick control. Up is left, down is right, etc. Would you know if there's a way of accessing the mapping menu for making the joystick work with this new board? At first I thought the joystick was defective, but when I put in the original PCB board, the joystick works fine. It just seems that the new board won't work right. Do you have any suggestions? Any assistance would be appreciated. Thank you so much. Now, Tim, this is an Arcade 1-Up, and I mean, obviously, that's not what we cover most of the time here. Most of the time, we're covering actual arcade games.
Right.
But I think that there is an arcade, like a traditional arcade repair solution to this that may work instead of doing the encoder board, right?
Right.
Modifying the board software. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a good question, though, because... And it could happen in a regular arcade game, too. So it sounds like when he switches boards, the mapping is different. So it's very, very hard to play. Whereas if it's not the old JAMA standards, should be the same. Right? But obviously, and I would have thought that for most part, that most arcade 1-Up boards were like the same mapping, too.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised it wasn't. But the fact that it's not... Now, we really don't know a way to go in. That would probably be an Arcade 1-Up question. I don't know if there's a menu or something you could go in and change it.
Some Arcade 1-Up boards are very wildly. Some of them use like Android as their underlying operating system, Tim. So they're almost like a phone, which means you can get into those. But I'm not sure if his Partycade is like that. Some of them use kind of low-level emulation, Tim, and don't really have like a full-on like visual operating system. They don't have a UI on top of it. And so it would depend on which board he has as to if he had modified the software. It's possible. But Tim, I don't, off the top of my head, know whether the Partycade board can be accessed, like whether you can access that software via like a keyboard or not.
Right.
So.
That would be a question to actually call and ask them, and they may or may not tell you, even if you could.
Or somebody in the modding community.
But we do have a solution.
Yes, we do.
And the solution would be quite simple. I'm sure most of the guys in the chat room already know. That would be just to go ahead and switch the wires that go to your joystick. So, in other words, if it's going left, you want to go right, switch those wires around. And now they'll have a ground wire, you want to switch the other wire. I'm not sure what color or what they look like on there, but it should only be 2 wires just like an arcade game. And you're just going to switch the wires around. And you might take a little playing, now it's going right instead of left. I remember the first time I ever wired up Mortal Kombat over there, Jonathan. I had them going everywhere, and I didn't even really realize you could read a pinout or anything. I was just putting them in until one of them worked. I was like, okay, that's up. Then I'm going to put it up here. So sometimes you can unplug all 4, plug one in, see which direction when you hit it goes, and that's your left or that's your right or whatever it is. Move it over there. Then it's just a process of elimination. There's only 4 wires, so it shouldn't take you too long to figure that out.
Now, once you do that, it is going to mess with the mapping, which means the original board will now not work.
Right, not work.
So that's something to think about. And I'm not sure if the arcade one-up that you have actually has terminals and like terminal connections,
soldered, right.
or if they're soldered, or if they're actually built into the switch. So you may have to clip the wire and then reconnect the wire with wire nuts. Or Tim, we have a whole video on connecting wires back together that you can watch as to how to connect those wires back to where they need to go. So
yeah, what I would recommend, if it doesn't have a terminal, that you put a terminal on it, because when you go to switch back to your original board, you may need to switch them again. And those are that's why they're called quick disconnects a lot of times, so you can quickly disconnect and plug it in somewhere else. So if they don't have those, I would definitely consider putting those, and we do have videos on how to do that.
Exactly. Now here's the thing, Tim. Some of these micro switches for these arcade one-ups actually have the wire inside the switch.
Oh, okay.
Now, if that's the case, you can still do what Tim talked about. You just need to buy a new joystick.
Right.
So if you got like a traditional arcade joystick, which would play better probably than the one arcade one-up installed one anyway, but if you got like a traditional 4-way joystick and install that and then put terminals on and then connected them to the switches, it would be easier for you to change around those directions if you needed to in the future, for sure.
Agree.
So, Tim, is there anything else on Philip's question before we move on?
I don't think so. We got a little bit going on in the chatter
we'll
in the chat room.
We'll hit that here in a second. Let me go ahead and sum up Philip's question here. Oh, I'm already throwing that up. Okay, based on your description, it sounds like the button mappings between the two arcade one-up boards are not the same. Unfortunately, we do not know a way to get into the software settings for the board to change it, okay? So we don't, but there may be somebody in the modding community who does. With that said, you should be able to physically move the wire connectors going to the joystick switches to get it working. For example, if the up direction is registering left on the new board, move that wire that's connected to the up switch to the left switch. Repeat this process until all of the wires are matched up to the correct directional switches. Like we mentioned, Philip, you may benefit from putting in a traditional arcade joystick, right, Tim?
Right.
So you may benefit from that if you want to go that route. And then putting terminals on those wires so you can easily switch them around. So that's something to think about as well. And if you have any additional questions about that, or if you need help with that process, please let us know. And good luck with your joystick, getting this joystick to work with that other board on your arcade one-up Partycade cabinet. And Tim, these Partycades are pretty cool.
Yeah.
They can hang on doors, or they can sit on a cabinet, or like on a table. They actually have like a stands that you can put on. It's very cool. So very cool stuff. But Philip, hopefully that answers your question, and good luck getting your arcade one-up Miss Pac-Man Partycade to work with that modded board that you have. Okay, Tim, I'm going to come over to the live chat real quick. Matt says, greetings from Ontario.
Okay.
So there we go. We got some Canadians watching tonight.
We're worldwide tonight.
That's right. Now, I am going to Canada here in the summer, Tim, to go visit my family.
Good.
I got quite a bit of family in Calgary, and I got my passport. It should be coming in hopefully any day now.
Nice.
So we've already applied and everything. So looking forward to seeing you Canadians here in the summertime.
How fun.
And it's nice because it's cool up there, and it's
That's
110
cooler,
here.
right?
So, right, exactly. So, but Matt does have a question, Tim. He says, I have a cabinet with an oddball monitor, a Roto JW88 or 888A, excuse me. I'm doing a recapping of the chassis. I noticed there is no isolation transformer in the cabinet. Should I add one? Is there any harm?
Well, if it didn't have one to begin with, that probably is built onto that monitor. And you're right, I don't recognize that monitor. That may be the 2 brand. You can send us a picture of your chassis, is what we're really concerned about. It's never a bad idea to add one. Never a bad idea. They're good to have. Play it safe if you want to and add one. But the fact that it doesn't have one in there, and I'm assuming at some point this game was working, it may not need one. But kind of depends on the age too. I would say anything 2000 and up probably doesn't need one, just a round number. But if it's earlier than that, did you say what game it was?
He did not.
Okay. Well, tell me what game it was too. That might help. But when in doubt, just play it safe. It's not going to hurt. For sure. So,
right. Well, and here's the thing: if it
I like to put them in there.
If it didn't come installed with one, and the monitor is hooked up to a power source, there's a good chance that it probably doesn't require one, or it has one on the board. Now, with that said, if you start looking at the board and the diodes are blown on the board, that's a lot of times the first thing that blows when you don't have an isolation transformer hooked up, then you may need an isolation transformer. And so, but in most cases, especially digital monitors, and like Tim mentioned, anything basically 2000 and newer CRT-wise, a lot of times does have an isolation transformer on the board, basically on the chassis, to where it's not required down below. And so, considering this one's one we have not heard of, probably something newer, Tim, I would imagine. So if it is newer, you probably don't need it. There's no harm if it does not require it, but there's no harm in putting one in if it does require, or if it doesn't require it either. So, I mean, you can run isolation transformer with a monitor that already has an included isolation transformer, but you can't run a monitor that requires an isolation transformer without an isolation transformer. So that's what you have to keep in mind. But for the most part, if it's a digital monitor especially, or if it's a newer style monitor and it doesn't have an isolation transformer, you're probably okay.
Agreed.
So, let's see. It's a Street Fighter 2, he says, Tim.
Okay.
So, Rainbow Board, bootleg. That is a very fun bootleg.
Really?
So you can do mid-air moves, and you can change characters mid-fight and all that kind of stuff. Rainbow, if you've never played it, is available on MAME, Tim. You've got the ROM hack available there. Before. So it's a very unique style of Street Fighter. But yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't tell us a lot about that monitor.
No, and I would say that's kind of on the cusp of could need it, could not need it. So why not put one in there? They're not that expensive, and I would put one in there just to be safe.
There you go. Next one here from Current Phonograph. I bought an original Miss Pac-Man PCB board that came out of a cocktail table. Does this PCB work with the stand-up cabinet too?
Yes.
Yes. There's an exception to that, right?
Right.
Or not an exception, but there's a trick to that, right, Tim?
Yes, a little trick. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think, is it a dip switch or is it a ground?
It's a dip switch setting.
Okay.
That you got to change. So it's a cocktail mode, I think it says, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll have to find the dip switches, make sure the game is off, switch the dip switch into regular mode, and then yours probably still has the daughter card. It may or may not, have been modified to with or without it, but yeah, it's the same PCB basically.
Yeah, there are some games, and I always forget which ones are which. There are some classic cocktail games, Tim, where in order to get in the cocktail mode, you have to ground a pin. We've seen that before too. I don't think I can't remember. I think Miss Pac-Man is a dip switch. Yeah,
right.
But some of them do require you to ground a pin in order to get into cocktail mode. I'm pretty sure Tim's right with Miss Pac-Man boards. I believe it is just a dip switch on the board. So if you look up the dip switches for Pac-Man games, you'll probably find the one that you need to modify. So otherwise, like Tim mentioned, same board. And you may have a daughter card. Daughter cards were what originally came with Miss Pac-Man boards, but a lot of boards have been modified since to do away with the daughter card. So it just depends on whether or not somebody modded the board to do that or not. So remember the 6-pack kit?
Yeah.
So there's like a 6-pack kit that Tim actually sold for a while that would do away with the daughter card, give you 6 different versions of Pac-Man, right?
Yes.
So and there's a couple of 6-pack's not the only one that does that. There's a couple of different mods of that.
I'm sure there's quite a few by now.
Absolutely. Let's see. Okay, yeah, he says yes, it does have the daughter card.
Okay,
so
just be careful when I was just the only reason why I mentioned that. Just be real careful when you're moving it over, because it seems like those things don't like to be moved very well. The old ribbon cables are pretty brittle and stuff, so just be careful with it when you move it or
Absolutely.
Put it up.
Okay, well, Tim, I think we are caught up in the live chat, so let us continue on here, guys, with a question from Angelo. And Angelo says, hello, I am trying to repair a Kart Fury racing arcade game. Tim, this is a newer style game you're probably familiar with. The board above the steering wheel with the LED on it is not working. Can you help me? Thanks, Angelo. So, Tim, this is pretty basic. For those of you guys who know Kart Fury Racing, there's an LED that reads like the speed, I think it is, Tim, whenever you're driving. It's a speedometer, basically, or a fake speedometer there. And what he's saying is basically there is no readout on that speedometer, okay? So he's not getting anything on that dashboard, okay?
Right.
And you can actually see, I think that front part has like almost what looks like an RPM meter on it. And then it has like I said, it'll read you the speed there. And so basically we're looking at that front LED is not working. So what can we check on the Kart Fury Racing here, Tim, in order to repair that and get that working again?
Well, anytime you have that little secondary board like that, the first thing that I always check would be the connection from the main board to that, because I can't tell you, you think about a steering and stuff, a lot of times they just get unconnected or not quite connected as good as they were, or even one of those wires. A lot of times it seems like these the cheapest, brillest, thinnest wire they could find, and a lot of times those will break or something. Make sure you got continuity between the two. So you really want to make sure that you have a good connection. That'd be step one, from the main board to that board. And that could be, the main board could be a long ways from there. So all it takes is one wire break or ground or something. So I would check all of those. If all the wiring is good, then I would check for voltage going to your little, it's some kind of little board. And I would make sure that it's getting power. If it's not getting power, then you could have a problem with your main board or power, some break in the line somewhere. And if it is getting power, there probably is something wrong with that board itself. And I'm not familiar enough with it, but it's either going to be your PCB or the main board, and both of them would need repair. If it's PCB, it's probably a chip or something on the board. There could even be a fuse in line. But if it's just a small board, a lot of times there's resistors that go bad on those and they will quit working, or they're not follow the voltage through it, and you might be able to find a culprit. Other than that, finding a replacement is going to be really tough, but there's not very many components on that board. Surely something on there was bad. If you had to replace them, you could probably rebuild the whole board pretty easily.
Gotcha. Okay, so Tim, let's go ahead and show this real quick so everybody can see it here. So first off, like Tim mentioned, check that the dashboard PCB is making a good connection to the main game board. Now, Tim, this uses ribbon cables, like we were talking about before. Good. So there's a ribbon cable that runs between the two boards. We want to make sure that it is not damaged and that it is plugged in correctly, okay? Which means that the pin, the direction of the ribbon cable matches the direction it's supposed to go.
Right,
okay,
so
make sure.
It's going to matter.
Right. We recommend using the continuity check on your multimeter to ensure that the connection is good between the two boards, okay? So you can check to make sure you're getting continuity on those pins individually. So that's very important, guys. If the connection checks out, like Tim mentioned, see if the PCB board is getting power. So you should be able to measure voltage on some of those chips on that board and see if it's got power. So if it has power, then it's probably a problem with the PCB itself. If it does not have power, then you may have a problem upstream. That could be with the game board. That could be with the power supply. That could be with something else. But overall, like Tim mentioned, this is not a complex board. These are just typically kind of auxiliary boards that are off the main board. And so usually the components can be replaced fairly easily, and you can get back up and going without too much of an expense.
Now, is that an actual picture right there, Jonathan?
That isn't a picture of what he had. This is just a picture I found on the internet.
Okay.
Just to show everybody kind of what that looks like.
Because looking at that one, I also remember that those little blocks, you would say, or bricks, all the time I would have to touch up the solder on them or replace those individual
You're talking
pieces.
about on the 7-segment LEDs?
On the 7-segment LEDs, yes. Those definitely do go bad. And so I wonder if he might not be in the live chat tonight, but I would like to know, is it lighting up at all, getting no power? I'd almost rather see one that was getting no power, because usually that's in the wiring or something. But if it's kind of half wonky and not reading right, those things are not very fun to replace. Okay.
So it could actually be the 7-segment LED right there that's having the problem. And it looks like there's a gang of 3 right there.
Yes, there's 3 of them.
LEDs. So yeah, so that's a good point too, Tim. I didn't even think about that. The board could be operating correctly, but the display could be shot.
The display itself, the LEDs do go out over time, and you have to desolder them and replace them. By that time, it's usually easier just to buy a whole new board, if it's even available these days. But I'm sure you can still buy those components.
Oh, absolutely. So that's another thing to think about, Angelo. So hopefully we've given you a good place to start on that. If you need additional help, please contact us. Tim, I believe that Angelo was in Italy. Okay. Because I had to translate this from Italian.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. So I hope the translation came over okay.
Pretty good translation job.
Google Translate, Tim.
Okay. Well.
Hey, we will take questions from all over the world, as we mentioned. So, right. I mean, hopefully, Angelo, that answers your question. And if you need additional help, please write us back. If it's in Italian, Tim, we'll translate it again. So, but hopefully you can get your Card Fury Racing little LED readout board there up and running soon. Now, Tim, on that same game, we have a question from Hayesville Arcade. They say, our Card Fury will boot up and run fine for 15 to 20 minutes or a few races, then shuts off on its own. Could it be a missing fuse or a bad power supply?
Usually when a game works and then stops after a while, it's usually the power supply. It's usually kicks on and it's working, but as the game is pressed and the graphics are doing more things, will shut down. Sometimes it's just a tweak of the power supply. So make sure that you're actually at the right voltage to your board because it doesn't take much for it to shut down. Sometimes just turning it up a little bit, try to dial it in as close as you can, but sometimes a little bit higher. Don't go crazy, but just a little bit, will cause it to work all the time. But a lot of times it's the power supply.
Now, Tim, the one thing I would add is that when it stops working, check the power immediately.
For sure.
So, like, as soon as that thing shuts off, open up the back, get your multimeter out, check the voltage right there. If the voltage is dead from the power supply at that point, power supply.
Sure.
If the voltage is still good from the power supply,
but it died, then you
game board.
Yeah, then you could have a game board issue. Exactly.
So
it could be a processor on your board or something, right?
Right. Now on these games, driving games and games that get a lot of functional movement, me and Tim talked about this before, you really want to turn those up to about 5.1 on your power supply, because they tend, especially with these newer style games that are PC based, they tend to suck down a little bit more voltage than what you normally would have with a standard arcade game. So you may try moving that voltage up to about 5.1.
Okay.
And just seeing, right, if it does any better. Because, these newer games with high-end graphics cards, they take a little bit more juice. And so maybe worth just tweaking it just a bit to see if it makes a difference. So
interesting. Same game, though, right?
Yes. Jumping general, I have an empty cabinet and looking to build something to play all the arcade Mortal Kombats and other fighting games. Can you recommend the best Pandora's box? Now, Nate came in and said Pandora 10 is the best and newest on the market with possible gun support. The Pandora Box Home Edition, if you're using a scratch build, if using JAMA, get the JAMA version, make sure it does CGA wiring using an old monitor that's not VGA. The Pandora's Box boards, I don't know all the difference between them. I have probably an 8 or a 9 that I use that's fine and plays most of the games pretty good. I can't tell the difference. So there's a lot of different versions, but the Pandora's Box seems to be the most popular, and I've run so many different versions of that over the years, Tim.
Yeah, it would just make sense that the newest version probably has some of the fixes and better stuff.
Mine has the ability to get online on Wi-Fi and download more games.
Nice.
So, and I don't know what version that is, but it's one of the newer versions, obviously. So, but there's a lot of them out there, but the Pandora's Box boards that you'll see on AliExpress, sometimes you'll see them on Amazon and stuff like that. Those are decent boards, and they work good enough for most of the games you want to play. Let's see, Matt, can you explain what the purpose is of a transformer in the bottom of a cabinet? Power cable goes into it, then out to the EMI filter. Is it necessary?
Okay, the actual, the isolation transformer?
It sounds like he's saying isolation transformer. So typically, he says that power cable goes into it and then out to an EMI filter. So some people wire their cabinets like that. We recommend the Bob Roberts way to wire a cabinet, which would be AC filter, AC distribution to individual parts.
Right.
But some people will wire an isolation transformer first and then go to the filter and then go through all the stuff. And there's really not a whole lot of, there's no real difference, but the monitor is the only thing that needs the isolation transformer. So a lot of times if we run it, we're running straight AC, standard out of the wall AC to everything, and then just the isolation transformer to the monitor. Right. But Tim, let's get into that a little bit. Isolation transformers, what are they really there for the monitor? Well,
they do exactly what they say. They isolate, they kind of filter out a lot of the bad and those wave fluctuations, you might say, and power surges. I always think of it's kind of like a surge protector, an old school surge protector. It keeps the electricity clean and kind of steady and keeps it from fluctuating too much, from what I've always understood about them. And I'm no expert on them, but from my research and from what I've looked at them, is that, I think they were really important back in the arcades. They talk a lot about back in the day when everybody was listening to radio more, and the AM radios and stuff would interfere, and you'd see stuff on your screen and things like that. I don't think we have kind of those problems like we had today, so that's why they've definitely shrunk in size. But they're still must have need, Jonathan, because they still put them in monitors. They're still built in. So, what we want is a clean, and we don't want a lot of spikes and a lot of ripple in our AC. We want it to be as clean and as steady, I guess is maybe a good term. What do you think?
Well, there's a great Bob Roberts article, Tim, on isolation transformers that we would highly recommend you check out. And if I could link to that, if I could bring it up and link to it real quick, maybe here in a bit, I will. But Bob Roberts has a whole article on isolation transformers that you need to read. If you really want to know more about them and how they work, that's what I would recommend to you. So.
Yeah, and somebody can chip in if you want to. I know we got some guys that could probably be a lot more technical than me. I just know that it cleans up the AC a lot.
Oh, okay. So he's saying he's got something. He's not sure if it's an isolation transformer. He says maybe it's not. It's just a big box that's mounted to the bottom of the cabinet, and it's the first thing the power cable goes into. Might be called something else. So picture would be helpful here. So what you're just saying it's a big black box. I mean, it could be. It could be an old school like big blue style power supply in there. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could be this big black box. So send us some pictures, questions at arcaderepairtips.com, Matt. Send us some pictures of what you got, and we can probably identify it once we see it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a power box. They don't really describe it that way, but I mean, some of them just are where you can plug stuff in, or they just kind of have your plug going into it, so it's kind of protected. It's not on the outside of the game. A lot of times there might be a fuse or something in there. I'm not really sure without looking at it. And Matt, is it Matt?
Yes.
Did you say what kind of game it was, Matt?
Yeah,
give me an idea there too. Maybe that'll help.
Something else I want to remind you guys is that if you look at the bottom of a mispack cabinet, you're going to see sometimes you'll see two transformers in there. You'll see an isolation transformer. And you'll see an AC step down transformer.
Right.
An AC step down transformer is to step down the AC voltage coming out of the wall to something that the board can use. Miss Pac-Man boards took AC voltage, Tim. They took in 7 and 12 volts AC, and the board converted that to DC. Okay, right. And so that transformer was traditionally bigger than an isolation transformer.
Okay,
so it's possible you just have like an AC step down.
It could be something old from. Did you say it was an older cabinet or something? Something that converted.
Yeah.
Might not even be necessary these days.
Exactly. So send us some pictures, questions at arcaderepairtips.com, and we can help you identify it for sure. Let's see what else we got. Joe Holt says, hit it with a leaf blower when it drops, power supplies overheat. It's actually not a bad idea. If you want to hit it with a leaf blower whenever your power supply starts to overheat, hopefully your fan is functioning, I would say, in that.
Yes.
But a leaf blower could get that fan going again, too, if it's just like getting stuck or something like that.
That would be interesting if you put the leaf blower on it, see if it didn't die.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of stay cool or something. But
right, exactly.
Could be overheating for sure.
Yeah. Hazel Arcade says, turn up to 5.1. Thank you very much. You guys are the best. Yeah, just let us know. And when it does drop out, check that voltage. Hit it with that multimeter. Let's see what happens. Speaking of multimeters.
Yes.
I think we should give away something.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, for those of you guys who follow us on social media, we posted a multimeter deal.
We did.
For an Astro AI 4,000 count true RMS digital multimeter with auto-ranging functionality. Did I get all that in there?
I think so.
Okay. It was only $10, Tim. So, guess what? I bought one. And we're going to give it away right now. So if you would like to win this Astro AI 4,000 count true RMS digital multimeter with auto ranging functionality, you can send an email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com and make sure you include the keyword
Easter.
Easter. So just like my little bunny thing here, right?
Right.
So Easter. So again, send us an email, contest@arcaderepairtips.com. Now, we would like you to put your mailing address in the email. And the reason why is because I don't want to have to email you back.
Right.
Tim, sometimes I email people back and they don't email me back.
Okay.
And so make sure you put your mailing address and the keyword Easter in there. So, and send that email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com. Contest@arcaderepairtips.com. We need your mailing address and we need the keyword Easter in there. So if you get those two in there, you'll be entered to win this wonderful multimeter, which has a street value of $10 apparently. But Tim, it's hard to find an auto-ranging multimeter that for that price for sure. It is a good deal. Maybe you ordered one. Maybe you'd like to have two. So there you go. So we'll be mentioning this later in the show. But Tim, we usually give them about 24 hours or so, and we will send that out once we get enough entries. Tim will randomly pick a number, and we'll go from there. So Tim, we've already got... I forgot to mention this. We've got some donations already.
Thank you, guys.
So the first one was up here from Matt. He sent us $6.99 Canadian, which I have no idea how much that is in American. But we won't do the conversion. We're just thankful you gave us a donation. So thank you, Matt, so much for that. We really appreciate that. And then Tim, we just got one in from Current Phonograph. Sent us $10 US, Tim.
Thank you.
So we want to thank you too. Thank you so much, Current Phonograph, for that. We truly do appreciate it. So we love it when you guys donate. It means so much to us. It just shows us how much you value our content, right?
Right. Thank you.
So. Okay, Tim, let us go back here. We had a couple of questions that we were still getting to. Current Phonograph is back. He says, I bought a Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom PCB, an A and B board, manual, which lists all the parts except cabinet, which is correct 4-player cabinet on that game. Can you still buy new? So, I don't think you could buy the original. I don't even know if they made a dedicated version of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think it was always every one I've ever seen looked like a kit.
So I have one.
Yes,
As you know, it's in storage. I actually own one of these. The board was phoenixed by our good friend Raymond at arcadecomponents.com, and it works great. But it is in a kit cab, which is just a Z-back cab, Tim, with a 4-player replaceable, replaceable panel. And that's what I have mine in. I don't think, if there was a dedicated, I do believe that some people put them in the big blue style cabinets, Tim, but they weren't always blue. They were sometimes black. And so I'm not sure if that would have been considered dedicated or not on that game. Now, as far as ordering that cabinet now, I don't know if there'd be a manufacturer that would do that. There may be a cabinet builder who would make something like that. And so if you check, the easiest way to tell what kind of cabinet a game's supposed to go in is to look at the flyer. So find a flyer for the game and then look at the cabinet that they have it in, and that's probably as close to dedicated as you're going to get.
There you go.
Because, I mean, it's just a good idea. Typically, when they're trying to market the game, they're putting in the nicest cabinet that they can. In most cases, it'd be a dedicated cabinet. And so I would say check out the flyer for Tower of Doom and see what cabinet they have it in. Tim, for some reason, I remember something that looked an awful lot like a big blue style Capcom cabinet, but with a 4-player joystick, and it wasn't blue, it was black. For some reason. So don't quote me on that, but it is a fantastic game. One of my favorite games.
I always see them in like a converted Ninja Turtles or something. It's always that NBA Jam style.
And it's got a dip switch setting, so you can play with it in 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player mode.
Okay.
Which is really handy.
That's
so if
neat.
you've got a 2-player cabinet, you can play with it in 2-player mode. 3- and 4-player mode, what are you going to have, Tim?
You're going to have a lot of buttons. And
well, not only that, but you have to have
wide, long joystick.
A certain kind of harness.
Oh, you're going to have the kick harness.
Yep.
For
so
sure.
make sure that if you want to wire up the 3rd and 4th player, I'm pretty sure you have to have the kick harness on that.
You do.
Let's see. Junger Dynamiker says, I have a Sega Rally twin cabinet that is missing the seat adjustment. The original Sega part number can't be bought anymore. Any tips for a replacement part? Some car parts might work. Now, Tim, I would think that this would still be available from Play It Again. Am I wrong?
Maybe.
Okay,
yeah.
Play It Amusements? Excuse me, not Play It Again. Play It Amusements.
Play It Amusements would be a good choice. Have you talked to Hap Controls about maybe one of their universal ones that might work with that? I'm not sure. I need to see a picture of it because I've never worked on that particular game. But I do know Sega parts, even if you found a dedicated Sega part, it'd be expensive.
Yep.
I would probably try to convert it with a generic Hap one or something that all it does is just a spring that, moves and a rail that allowed you to slide backwards and forwards. I don't know that car parts would be the way to go, but I haven't seen it. So send me a picture. I'll try to help you some more with that one.
And if you contact Suzo Hap, if they have the part, they'll be happy to sell it to you, right?
For sure.
I mean, they will be happy to. But
find the manual, find the part number, Google just the part number and see what won't come up. Maybe you can find some. There's still some warehouses with some of these parts in there they would love to get rid of.
But Suzo Hap, I would contact, and Play It Amusements for sure, because Play It Amusements still does, I think, all of the Sega parts here. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for Sega parts, Play It Amusements, they're going to be expensive, but you'll get one, right?
Sure.
But like you said, you may be able to adapt it.
Maybe so.
It may be worth adapting. So
I would take it apart and just look at it and see what's going on with it. A lot of times it's just a spring or a washer or something that's not working. It may be something you could figure out too. Sure. Or might maybe come up with a solution.
Absolutely. Okay, Tim. Oh, Paul Geray's here, Tim.
Hey, Paul.
Hayesville Arcade on that D&D says we have an old Big Boy Dynamo is what they have.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's the 33 Showcase style or if that's like just a... That's what it reminds me of. When you say Big Boy, I think Showcase. Mm-hmm. But and Showcase was very popular for that game. I know that. So, But there were some 4-player Dynamo cabinets too that did that as well. So, yeah. But I mean, look at the flyer for the game. That'll tell you what the cabinet's supposed to be.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go, Tim. Let's go to Marty. Marty says, hi, I have 2 Cruis'n Exotica sit-down machines that I've been trying to link. I was looking at the manual, and it said one machine has to have dip switch 7 turned on. It doesn't matter which machine I turn dip switch 7 on, they both will still say they're off. It's the same for 8 as well. So I looked online, and one site said to turn dip switch 1 off. I did that, and now the buttons in the coin door steering wheel and the pedals don't work at all. I turned dip 1 back on, and it doesn't change anything. Sorry for the long story. My question is, did I burn up something on the main board? So I think there's more to this story, Tim. Mm-hmm. I swapped the main board out of the other one and into it, and it works fine. So he swapped the 2 boards, Tim, and the working board still works, and the non-working board does not work.
Right.
Okay. I was watching one of your videos, and you said switching the dip switches can't hurt it or can't hurt it, just messes up settings. This was well after I messed with it. I was going to buy a used board, but they're a good $300 plus. Any advice you could give me would be appreciated. Also, any chance you guys sell any boards? I was looking for the board to convert from CRT to flat screen in another game. I got one from Amazon. It's bad. I have one that came in another machine. I swapped it and it works, so I know that the one I bought was bad. Thanks, Marty. So, Tim, let's answer that first question, or the last question first. We don't sell boards, and as far as those video converter boards go, Tim, we pretty much buy them from the same place you guys do. AliExpress, Amazon, arcade parts suppliers, same places we get them from. Oh, and, those are the GBS 8200 style boards, 8220s. Mm-hmm. And so, just return the one you got from Amazon, order another one, and you'll probably be back in business. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's usually not a big deal. Now, Tim, let's get to the real problem here. He was trying to link the games. Okay, and so he's messing with dip switches just up and down, doesn't really know what he's doing, just reading websites telling him to do different things. And he flipped dip switch 1, and now that board, now the steering doesn't work in that board, and the front coin door stuff doesn't work in that board. It's like, by flipping that dip switch, basically, it's like the whole thing just stopped working. Yeah. And so what do you think happened with that board? What is it did flipping dip switch 1 really cause it to blow up?
It should not have. I'm not going to say that it didn't. Number one, we always say, remember, when you change a dip switch, the game needs to be powered off. Correct. And that's important, because with power on, you're actually kind of shorting or going across something, and it could cause an issue if you do it with the game running. So hopefully he didn't do that. Hopefully the power's off and you just turn the dip switch. Ordinarily, that wouldn't do anything in it of itself. Now, I have seen many a time, just by working on something, a ring, a screwdriver that I had in my hand, something hit something and could cause other problems. But it's possible that the switch is literally just stuck. And so you could actually read it with a meter and see what was going on to see if the switch actually... So with the power off, you could put it on continuity, and when you turn it up, does it beep? Or turn it down, does it beep? You could actually see, is the switch itself working?
So I'm going to stop you for just a second here, Tim. You're exactly right with what you're saying. I did look up what that dip switch 1 controls, and what that controls is whether or not the Cruis'n Exotica is in a kit or in a dedicated cabinet. Right. And so if you were, let's say it was on the dedicated cabinet, which I think was off, which is what he had it on, and then you switch it to kit. Well, some of the stuff may not work because obviously the kit has different hookups than the dedicated one might. Right. And like Tim mentioned, if you switch it back down, it may not have changed it back. We don't know. And so the fact that it's still not working, I think Tim has a good point. It could be stuck. So
that's my guess, is that you didn't fry anything. I think you just stuck something. I think it's kind of doesn't know what to do. This is my best way to say that. But without looking at that, we'd have to really do some digging and see, is the switch itself working? If that's the case, then what happened? Sure, you didn't do nothing else that could have caused it, even on accident or something. Because normally we were right, but I hope we did stress in the earlier video that you always want to do this with the power off. That would be just like, plugging and unplugging stuff in there with the power on. There's a lot of stuff you could do that could easily damage stuff. So you don't want to be just flipping dip switches with it on, and most of the time won't work anyway. Right. It has to be off.
Now, Tim, he did mention the thing, the whole thing he was trying to do was link the two cabinets. And I know that you've had linked Cruis'n cabinets before. You've worked on them. You had them at Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. And so with that in mind, what's the right way for him to do it? He was talking about switches 7 and 8 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it seems like there was some dip switches, but you had to have a linking cable to do it. And so they had to be physically connected to each other.
Is there anything special about that cable that you can remember? Did it have to go to like a switch? Did it have to be a certain type of like cable or anything like that? Was it like network, or was it just a standard?
It seemed like it was more like a network cable, but we're talking, it's been a few years now since I've done it. Sure. But usually it was like a kind of like Cat5 type cable that we would plug up into one and had another place to plug in the other one, and then you would switch it and tell it this, more or less, you were turning on a switch to tell it this is the main board, right, and this is the other one. Now I think there's some soft dip switches too that you can go into and tell it this to link and stuff like that. In fact, I quite remember that. Seems like you had to go into the manual settings, and I would be interested, does that come up? Can you get into test mode at all.
Right.
With this going on. This is a pretty difficult question without knowing a little more details, but hopefully we'll get him in the right direction at least. I would really want to know if it would come up in test mode.
Sounds good. So, Tim, let me go ahead and put this back here for Marty. So, let's check the Cruis'n Exotica manual to see what settings the dip switches allow you to change. On page 23, and Tim, I actually linked this down below, you will find that dip switch 1 controls whether the board is in dedicate or kit mode. Changing this should not damage the board, but it can cause it not to work if it is set incorrectly. It's possible that the switch is still stuck, like you mentioned, Tim, in dedicated mode, or stuck in off mode, even though you turned it back on. Check the switch with a multimeter to see if this is the case. Now, Tim, you said something very important, which is that we typically do not change dip switches with the game on.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't know if that had something to do with it. If you were changing dip switches with the game on, that may have had an issue. And Tim, I believe in our video on talking about dip switches, I'm pretty sure we tell you need to have the game off. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. So if you did have the game on while you were changing these switches, it's possible that, yes, you may have blown something. Okay?
Especially that chip right under there.
Right. Exactly. Let's see. You also find instructions on how to link the cabinets in the manual. So one of the things Tim didn't mention, but I remember him telling me this a million times, which is the only reason I threw it on here, is to keep in mind that the software versions must be the same.
Yes.
Okay, and I remember we've had problems linking games in the past, and a lot of times because one game is on one revision and another game is on another revision. The versions must be compatible. Right. Okay, they don't necessarily have to be the same. Same is the best. But if they're compatible, that's what we're looking for, okay? So, and then make sure you are changing the correct bank of dip switches. Tim, there are 2 banks of dip switches on the board.
Correct.
Okay? One controls the coinage and one controls the settings. Make sure you are changing the right one, okay? That's very important as well. And Tim, I linked to the manual. Go through the manual and check just all your dip switches and make sure everything is set the way it's supposed to be set. So I think if you start there, that's going to be a good place. And it sounds like you swapped the board, so we know that the problem is in the board. I think checking that switch to see if it's still activated is a good start, because that'll at least tell us whether or not it's stuck. And it's possible that it got stuck, or when you're using your screwdriver, you may have inadvertently touched something on the board, which shorted something. Very common. So again, guys, if you're changing dip switches, please turn the game off first. It's just a good rule of thumb. So, but Tim, anything else for Marty here before you move on?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, Marty, hopefully that gives you a good place to start. Now, we understand that it may be a little difficult. You may get through all this and your board may still not be working. Tim, there are several places you can send that board off for repair to if you need to. Eldorado Games is not cheap, but they will fix it, right, Tim? Is there anywhere else that you would recommend off the top of your head?
We've got several people on our page, but they're probably one of the best at those type of boards.
Absolutely. So Eldorado Games will get you set up if you want to repair on that board. But yeah, and considering that you did swap the boards, and we're pretty sure it's a board issue at this point, if that dip switch is not stuck open like we were talking about, or stuck in the on position, then there's probably something else in the board that may be damaged. So at that point, it may be good to send it off to somebody for repair. And like Tim mentioned, arcaderepairtips.com/resources. We have a whole board repair heading, and you can send it to one of the guys there, and they will definitely help you out. Not going to be cheap, but it'll probably be cheaper than buying another board. So
I agree.
Okay. So there we go. Tim, let me go ahead and check in with the live chat real quick. Let's see. Junger says, Play It Amusements might have the part I'm looking for. Great tip, guys. Spot on. So there you go.
Right.
Play It Amusements sells Sega parts. I mean, they are the official Sega part North American distributor, right, Tim?
Think so.
So, I mean, they're going to have a lot of the Sega parts you're looking for. Let's see. Nate says, for hooking up, he needs a crossover cable. A random Ethernet cable will not work unless using a router. And I thought this, Nate. This is one of the things I was getting to. If you're just hooking 2 of them up, I'm pretty sure you do need the crossover cable. So the crossover cable switches 2 of the pins on either side of a traditional Cat5 cable or Cat6 cable. And I can't remember what those 2 pins are, but by doing that, it allows you to do a direct connect instead of having a router in between. Or a switch. So, yes, I do believe a crossover cable is required for a second. And then those dip switch settings, Tim, just determine which one is the master and which one's the slave.
That's what I remember,
Exactly. So you just need to make sure that one of them is set to master mode and one of them is set to slave mode, so it knows which one's basically in control of the setup. So... let's see. And Younger also says a network switch would work. Yeah, so if you want to go with 2 Cat5 cables to a network switch, you could do that as well. Or Cat6 cables or RJ45 cables, can I say that? So,
I was just thinking it looked like one. I don't know exactly what the cable was, because we just always would buy them from Happer right from the manufacturer back in the days.
Exactly. It'd already be ready to go. So, Okay, well, I think that does it for Marty's question. So hopefully that gives you enough detail. If you need additional help, please don't hesitate to email us back, and maybe we can help you out further once you've done some of the stuff that we've discussed. Right, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for chipping in, too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, Tim, it's a community here.
Yeah, it is.
We're all here. So there we go. So, Tim, our episode is named The Police Trainer Ghosted on Me.
Okay.
Here's the police trainer that ghosted on us, Tim. You know, I've got to name it after something in the show, right?
Right.
I have a police trainer I'm working on. The issue is present before and after I install new caps and a flyback on the CRT. So I'm leaning towards the board. Okay. The issue is when first starting up, the machine looks perfect. But when shooting anywhere on the screen, the monitor picture goes ghosted, like white. But I'm still able to see the picture. The game operates normally while shooting. Every time you shoot, the picture ghosts in and out. Okay. Any ideas? Things. So, I mean, it sounds like Shawn knows exactly what he's doing here. He does a cap kit. He does a flyback install, Tim. We got basically really new components on here. We know it's good. But then, you know, first starting up the machine.
Everything looks
when
good.
shooting anywhere on the screen, though, I get this ghosted white all of a sudden.
Okay.
I'm still able to see the picture, but I just get this ghosted white. And so, with that in mind, what do you think's going on here with Shawn's police trainer? Now, Tim, we have a police trainer right here, but it works normally.
Right.
So, but it's interesting that it happens when it shoots. Is that giving us a clue, you think?
Yeah, because a lot of times that's normal because it's making a flash kind of showing that you shot.
Right.
Or you know, so, but the fact that it hits the trigger, so the way a gun works, there's voltage that goes up through the gun. Mm-hmm. So you may be getting extra voltage coming back or something. Sounds like there could be something wrong, that the board has some kind of issue because when that trigger completes that circuit and it tells the board that, and the board temporarily does something, there's something going on with it. That's what my first guess is. It's probably a board type, maybe a chip or something on the board, or you have something physically wrong with the gun that's actually shorting when it does that. So two things I would take apart the gun and look inside there for that.
So what he could try doing maybe is just hooking up one gun at a time and seeing if it does it with the one gun, right?
Yeah.
So like just hook up like the red gun and just play the game with the red gun on first player and see if it does it. And then maybe try to then unhook that one, just hook up the blue gun to the one player and then see if it does it there, right? Something like that would maybe tell us if it was a gun switch issue. Mm-hmm. But it could also be a board issue is what I'm hearing.
Right. Well, what you could do is unplug your gun and figure out the pinouts and just trick jumper wire to shoot and see if it does it without the gun even hooked up, and then you'll know you got something going on with it. That'd be another way to do it.
Yeah, and I'm
a little bit more difficult.
I think I'm leaning with you too. It sounds more like a board issue because the fact that it's perfect, like the monitor looks perfect until we shoot. And Tim, we all know light gun games give us that big white screen, but usually that white screen just flashes.
Right.
And the way he's describing it, it's almost like that white screen stays up for a second.
Okay.
But we still have all the rest of the stuff, but we have the white screen kind of staying up longer than that second. And then maybe it goes back to normal, or maybe it stays ghosted like that.
It's like something is telling it to stay longer than it should have. It should be really quick. And that's what makes me think it's maybe a board issue, that something is telling it kind of, hey, stay here for a second. And then, a little too long. The timer is kind of off.
Right. Or like you were mentioning, if the switch got stuck.
Right.
Like on the gun or something like that. I understand that one too. So let's go ahead and put this up here, Tim, so we can talk about it. On many light gun games, including Police Trainer, the monitor will quickly flash a white screen when the trigger is pulled. This tells the player that the gun trigger is registering with the game. Based on your description, it's possible that the white screen might be causing some of the ghosting that you're experiencing. If this is the case, it's definitely an indication of a board issue, like Tim mentioned. Now, with that said, it could also be the switch in the gun. That's possible too. So jump ring, like Tim mentioned, jump ring the trigger switch pin on the board may help as well. Mm-hmm. So, check the power supply. Always the first thing we want to do, we want to make sure voltage is good. Right, Tim? Always start at power.
Right.
Okay, ASAP. Then run the diagnostic settings in the service menu. And Tim, I know this because, guess what? We got a police trainer. Okay, I could literally turn this thing on right now. We could get into the dip switch thing, right? So, there's a diagnostic setting that will run through all the chips. It'll make sure everything's working. If anything tests bad,
it'll come up.
It'll come up. So, Police Trainer is a very smart board. It's a lot smarter than some of the other ones. So, its diagnostics are very good. Run through all of the diagnostics, not just the graphics, not just the sound. Just run through all of them and see if it detects any kind of issues. That will give you a good starting point. And Tim, it may be something as easy as like a cracked solder joint or a floating ground or something like that you just need to touch up solder on and get it working again. It may be something that simple. In fact, it could even be the connection with the gun to the board. Because like those pins a lot of times are not the best soldered pins, and you unplug them and plug them back in a lot if you're changing out guns a lot, like at a location. And so it's possible those pins could be damaged as well, right, Tim?
So that's very easily.
So I think that's where we want to go with this. We want to check our power supply. We want to check our pins on the board, make sure everything's making good connections, check our light gun, and then run those diagnostic settings in the service menu and make sure that everything checks out. And I think at that point, we should have a pretty good idea of what's going on, whether or not it's a board or a light gun issue. Tim, anything else for Shawn before we move on?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, Shawn, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting the police trainer to stop ghosting on you. Is that a good way to say it? So there you go. You just never know around here, Tim. So, okay, I think we're still caught up on the live chat, Tim. Let us move on with Greg's question. The Regzer Show, Tim, as you know, he sends in questions from time to time. And, Tim, I thought this was a really good one here to put on the outline. So let me go ahead and bring it up real quick. So Greg is trying to make a replica Miss Pac-Man Galaga Class of 81. And Tim, this is a favorite cabinet among many people. It's so iconic. I think most people have played this version of Miss Pac-Man Galaga before. It's almost at every pizza place here in town, I think Tim has one. So he was wondering, though, what was the best replica joystick to get? Did the original use a leaf joystick? Mike's Arcade has a bunch of options, including the bracket that allows me to fit almost any joystick. I'm thinking about the Red Ball 4-way joystick short from Mike's Arcade, but I'm wondering if there's a better option. Now, Tim, the thing about the Class of 81 cabinet is that's a newer style cabinet, right, Tim? And so it was made like in the early 2000s?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s or late 90s, one or the other. And so it's been around a while, but at the same time, Tim, I don't think it used leaf switches, did it?
I don't remember the dedicated ones. I've seen some conversions that were like a Miss Pac-Man or something before, and they did. But I would say this, knowing who sent the question, Greg is a player, right. And he likes to score high. Greg, most players that are real serious players and are going for high scores and stuff prefer the leaf style. Because they can adjust them and get them real sensitive or less sensitive, whatever your style of play. So you might take that in consideration. Also, I like the way the older style leaf switches are a little thicker. Is that a better way to say it? Or a little heavier?
Right.
And when I play, I kind of really have to push it to kind of get it to go over, Whereas the newer style, you can kind of play with one finger kind of deal.
Micro switch.
Yeah, it's a lot more sensitive in some ways. So I would just say, Greg, especially for you, on your player style, what do you like? And I think that's kind of what it boils down to. It's preference.
Right.
And a lot of people, sell ones that they say are for that game, but it seemed like the ones that we've seen that were dedicated were all micro switches, and our friend Steve would wear them out all the time.
Yep.
Because he was really tough player, and they never really hold up. He played a lot. And every 6 months, replacing a joystick on his game or the switches because he just wore them out. I think the leaf switches definitely have a little longevity.
I think you're right. Like leaf switches, they seem to be a little bit tougher in most cases, Tim.
They do.
With that said, though, considering the age of this cabinet, Tim, that early 2000s, I mean, by that point, there weren't a whole lot of leaf switch based games left. No. I mean, pretty much they weren't even like major manufacturers had already switched over to micro switch based joysticks at that point. Mm-hmm. And so with that in mind, I don't think I've ever seen one that had leaf switches that weren't like converted from like a dedicated Galaga or Pac-Man.
Yeah.
So
most of the ones that were made new at that time
had to have micro switches.
Micro switches.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll go ahead and throw this up here.
It's kind of a preference, really.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. But if you're looking for like what it originally came with, we're pretty sure that the original versions of the Miss Pac-Man Galaga Class 81 cabinet had a HAP 4-way micro switch based joystick installed from the factory, just because that was the standard when they started making those cabinets. Now, Mike's Arcade, the joystick that you linked to, is probably the exact same joystick, to be honest with you. Several parts suppliers sell these HAP joysticks, with some actually stating they are for use in the Class of 81 cabinet, including our friends at Twisted Quarter, Tim, which actually, this link down here, which we have also down in the show notes, actually says Namco 20-year anniversary joystick. Like, it's actually what it is. And so, I'm pretty sure it was a micro switch based 4-way joystick. But, I mean, there's, like I said, it was they're probably all just that same Hap joystick, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has a different name for it because they all want to call them different things, but they all come from the same freaking factory.
Right.
So, I mean, it is what it is. But Regular Show says, I like the Leaf for sure. When I play on the original Pac-Man, it just feels right. And that is true. When you play on a classic arcade cabinet, you definitely notice. But the Class of 81 cabinet has classic games, but it is not a classic cabinet.
Correct.
That's what I would say. And so with that in mind, I'm pretty sure it used a micro switch based joystick from the factory.
Yeah, and that's why I said, considering who sent the question in, I had a feeling he would feel like that. The Leaf switch may be better for you just because you're going to like the way it feels and plays, in my opinion.
So, I mean, a lot of it comes down to what you want. I mean, there's two schools of thought. Tim, there's one school of thought saying, I want this to perform just like it did from the factory.
Right.
And then there's another school of thought that says, I want this to play a certain way. Okay, so you always have to decide for yourself what you want. Do you want it to play like a classic arcade game? If you do, Leaf Switch is definitely the way to go. Or do you want it the way it came from the factory? If you want it the way it came from the factory, well, it had a micro switch in there.
Probably
so. I got micro switch joystick. So, I mean, it's always up to you as to what you want to do.
Now, Greg, if you look too, there is the alternative where you have the little longer arm micro switches that aren't just. And sometimes some people like those because it's kind of a middle in between the two. You're not just
the micro switch with the arm lever.
Yeah, with the arm lever on it. Right. Now, I would say that I actually like them because I could bend them just a little and make them really sensitive so that I did barely have to hit up and it was going up. And it helped me a little bit on playing. But I'm nowhere near the caliber player like some of you guys are. But that'd be another alternative. I have seen a few joysticks. You look at the bottom where they have an arm, little diving board coming off of it, and that's kind of a cross in between the two. I think that's why some people like them.
Absolutely. And Joe says it depends on the game for him. Frogger needs loose switches. DK, you want them instant and crisp. Yeah, it really just depends on your preference more than anything. I mean, when I play the game, I want it to feel a certain way. But Tim, here's the deal for me. I played fighting games a lot when I was a kid, and so I want everything to have the Hap Ultimate 8-way installed, because that is the joystick I played with.
Right.
Okay, and so now that's when it comes with fighting games. So when it comes to classic games, I do like Leaf switches, but I mean, for me, a micro switch joystick is not a deal breaker. I would still play with a micro switch joystick, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
For some people, it's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So it just depends. So, Greg, hopefully answers your question, and let us know what you decide to go with. We'd love to see a picture of your install on that. So
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tim, we're getting close to the end of the questions here, and we have our rapid-fire quick question and answer section coming up here. So, without any further ado, are you ready for some rapid-fire here?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, let me rapid-fire these bad boys out of here. First question here is from John, Tim. Can you change the price from 25 cents on an arcade game? Okay, pretty simple. TheLuisMan says, does a 412-in-1 Game Elf board include Super Pac-Man? Pretty straightforward there, too. And Matt says, when I'm connecting a kick harness, do I need to run the ground wire from the kick harness itself to the kick buttons? Or can you still use the ground wire that is daisy-chained to all the other buttons going back to the JAMA harness? Now, that one may be a little bit more nuanced, Tim. Okay. We have two that are pretty straightforward. Can I change the price of a game from 25 cents by John? Does the Game Elf 412-in-1 have Super Pac-Man? And then Matt's, do I have to use the kick harness ground wires on the kick buttons? And so, Tim, with all that said, let's take John's question real quick. Can we change the price of a game from 25 cents?
Well, on most games, it kind of depends on the game. There's settings that you can go into, and it just depends on the game. Sure. A lot of the older games, they may not have a 50 cent or more option, but most games, I would say on most games you can.
Absolutely. So, Tim, how do we typically change those?
You go into the dips, either a hard dip switch, or you go into the test mode and it's a soft dip switch setting. Most of the time it's a soft dip, or you go into some kind of settings. Just check your manual. Okay.
412 Game Elf board here, Tim, by TheLuisMan. Does it have Super Pac-Man?
Everyone we've seen does.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of variations of the 412-in-1, Tim, but I think everyone has Super Pac-Man. Very common. Now, Tim, I thought this was probably the more nuanced of the three, like I mentioned. Do we have to use the kick harness ground wires on the kick buttons, or can we use the daisy-chained ground wire on those kick buttons as well?
You should be able to just daisy chain it.
Right.
If they're all connected and everything is fine. but it's not a bad idea to run it to the harness board too, especially if it's the extra ground wire that it might require on some boards.
Right, exactly.
It depends on the board.
Yeah, exactly. And I really, in most cases, I think the daisy chain is fine. But Tim, I'm in a habit of just wiring the kick harness, the kick buttons
separate.
with the kick. Yeah, exactly. Kind of separate from the rest of the JAMA harness. Because, guys, when we're wiring a cabinet, what do? I do the entire JAMA harness, then I come back with the kick harness.
Right.
I don't do them at the same time. Okay, so a lot of times I won't run the extra grounds necessarily. I'll use the kick harness grounds to do that. But it just depends on what your preference is. So let's go ahead and summarize what we just talked about, Tim. So, John, yes, you can change the game from 25 cents on most games. These settings are typically changed via dip switch or the test service menu. Check the manual for your game for more info. So if you're wondering about a particular game, John, just check the manual. The manual should be able to tell you if you can change the coin per credit and all that kind of stuff. On the TheLuisMan, yes, every variation of the 412 Game Elf board that we have seen includes Super Pac-Man in the game list. And Tim, I took a screenshot for him. Okay, there it is. Okay, there we go. And Matt, in our experience, it's fine to use the daisy chain ground wires on the button switches that are connected to the kick harness. With that said, we tend to use the kick harness ground wires when we initially wire a game. Like I said, when me and Tim are wiring, what do? We wire the JAMA harness up first. And then we come back with the kick harness. So we usually just use the grounds off the kick harness. It's just the way we do it. But there should be no harm in using the ground wires from the JAMA harness. It should be all the same ground if the game is wired, if the board is laid out properly. Should all be the same ground. So it shouldn't matter either way. So, Tim, did we forget anything on any of these questions, or we pretty much cover it?
I think we got it.
Okay, well, there you go. So hopefully answers your questions, John, TheLuisMan, and Matt. And if you have any other questions about any of those questions that you asked us, let us know, and we'll help you out further. Well, Tim, we're getting here to the midway point, getting close to the discussion section. I know we're going to be talking about your travels and things like that. So, do you want to move on, or you got something else to do?
Well, we need to celebrate your birthday a little bit.
I mean, we can.
It's only 2 days ago, right?
Yep.
So, anyway, everybody, as you remember, last year my birthday was on the live show. Jonathan's was last month, but Jonathan's was just 2 days ago. So, and keeping up with the tradition of we like to exchange gifts and stuff. Mine's pretty simple this year.
Okay.
But I did get you something, John.
I like simple.
All right. So.
I got a birthday hat.
I got decorations.
I was about to say.
You got the hat.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on.
All right. And then so this year we got a card.
Oh, I like cards.
So inside that card there are two things.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Oh, okay. Hope the fun lasts long after the day is over. Happy birthday, Tim. And then Tim gave me a Upper Deck. Is this an 89?
Yep.
An Upper Deck Nolan Ryan card. So as you guys have not seen the game room before, but literally this entire wall is pretty much dedicated. Well, half of it is dedicated to Nolan Ryan. So for those of you guys who don't know, I've got a Nolan Ryan picture up here. And then I have the lenticular cards from Whataburger framed up here. I've got another Nolan Ryan plaque up there. Huge Nolan Ryan fan when I was a kid. So
I was going through some of my cards. We'll talk about this some more in the after show. And this was one of my favorite cards. And I don't know why it was famous. It's not the most valuable Nolan Ryan card, but to me it's just a cool card.
Yeah. He's throwing a football.
He's throwing a football. And it's in some of those that collect cards know it's a Nolan Ryan football card. Obviously, they said that sometimes they would toss around a football to help warm up, and somebody caught him throwing a pass there. We think, what kind of quarterback would Nolan Ryan have been?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So anyway, I just thought that was a cool card. When I run across it, I actually opened that out of a pack in 1989, and it has been in my collection ever since. And for some reason, I just thought, if anybody would appreciate it, I think that you would. So I want to give you that. Also, we chipped in some money because we're having a birthday party for you.
Yes, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But so we're renting a theater to see a certain movie, which we'll talk about here in a sec.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for the cash too.
You're
welcome. The cash is very nice.
Well, I know that would help towards the rental and stuff.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome, and we'll keep that private. But at the same time, that was just something. I actually had an older card, And it was, and I said I would give you, I think it was like a 1975 roller run. But when I looked at it, the condition was horrible. I was like, oh, it looked so much cooler when I was a kid. I was like, I can't give him this one. This one was actually in very nice condition.
Oh, yeah.
In case we ever get it graded or something, I think it should grade pretty high.
And I have an entire binder of Nolan Ryan cards still. And so this will go in my lovely binder. Thank you very much.
Well,
Tim.
those of you remember, this is a card number 774. And so the only way you could get this was an extra set. It came in what they call the high numbers. So you had to wait. They kind of like a mid-season release where they had the high numbers. It's where Ken Griffey Jr. card and stuff like that came. So anyway, this is one of my favorite Nolan Ryan cards, and I wanted you to have it.
No, thank you, Tim. I appreciate this.
So,
now, we're going to be talking more cards in the after show. I don't want to get too bogged down in this, but if you guys want to talk more baseball card talk, because, Tim, opening day happened while we were...
It is. We're going to talk some baseball.
We'll talk some baseball here in the after show. But, Tim, this is awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for some money to help us cover the theater rental. And we'll talk about that here in a second, guys. For my birthday, I told my wife I didn't really want presents. I just wanted to rent a theater and hang out with all my friends. So we'll be talking about what we're going to be doing here in a little bit. But Tim, before I go on, and I got some happy birthdays. Thank you guys for the happy birthdays. So Joe, he says the Easter pack shirt is awesome. Yes, like this shirt a lot.
That is a cool shirt.
I think I may wear it to the Easter egg hunt on Sunday if it doesn't rain. We'll
Please.
see. So without further ado, though, let me also say that if you guys want to win this multimeter, we're going to remind you, send us an email with your mailing address and the keyword Easter to contest@arcaderepairtips.com, and we will randomly pick one of you guys to win this nice auto-ranging Astro AI multimeter. So we hope that you, again, contest@arcaderepairtips.com. We need your mailing address and the password Easter somewhere in there, and one of you guys will win this nice multimeter. So, okay. So, thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys for all the birthday wishes. Much appreciated. It was a good birthday, Tim. I just kind of hung out, which is like I went to work.
Right.
I mean, because I'm an adult. I like the hat, by the way. We're going to keep this around for every birthday now.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of hung out. My wife cooked for me. I got some pie. I love pie. So, key lime pie is my favorite. Tim knows that. So, I got some key lime pie and a quiche. I like things that are round.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. And I got some 7-Eleven Pac-Man stuff and some other things. So, cool stuff. But anyway,
Very
now,
good.
while I was celebrating a birthday, Tim went to Asbury Park, New Jersey, and had a blast.
I did. I had a very good time.
So tell us about your trip here, Tim. I'm going to put the pictures up.
Well, I would highly recommend that you go to New Jersey during spring break.
Okay.
There was nobody there. They all left. And I had the arcade to myself. No, if you'll look, Asbury Park is right on the beach. In fact, you can see the ocean right back there, and you can see there's nobody there. There might have been 50 people on the boardwalk total. And so I looked up, I always like to check out the local arcades, and it said that Silverball was right up the street, 4 miles from my hotel. And so it said arcade and pinball and part museum. So I thought that really caught my attention. So, and they had food. So I went there, and I went to eat, and you can show the picture, Shawn. This is what I walked into.
So,
this is what it looked like on the outside.
So this is the view from the front door on the right here, right? So that's what it looks like when you look out. You're actually on the beach.
That's the back of the building, goes towards the beach. This is the front, faces the street.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the games you saw here, Tim.
Okay. Now, we're going to go into overload here. I mean...
You took a lot of pictures. Golly.
There was a...
And I see why, because golly, there were some great examples
here. It was like,
here.
how can I take a picture of this and not take a picture of this, you know? So, and of course, I had a couple hours, and I was just an overload here. But as you can see, they had like the marker, see the Pong game, and above it, so it's kind of like part history and part gameplay.
That's where the museum part comes in, right?
So I think it was $17 all you can play. And you just paid one price, which is worth every penny. And then I was enjoying reading about the games and the stuff. So that was the museum part.
So we have a Pong. Battle Zone?
Yeah, Battle Zone, which is in super good shape.
Cabaret?
Gorf, yeah, a little cabaret.
A Tapper and a Baby Pac-Man. These are definitely games you don't see much anymore.
Right. And this is just, like I said, this is just one little area. We'll go on with more pictures.
I'm going to read them just because if you're listening to this on the audio feed, I want you to know what we're looking at.
Okay.
So if you're not looking at these cabinets like we are right now, you can check the YouTube video, but they look pristine.
Yes, they were all restored and everything was working great.
Okay, I'm going to move on here. We have a Disc of Tron.
Disc of Tron.
You
don't see that every day.
Time Pilot.
Yes.
And I see some Donkey Kongs, a Popeye, a Frogger. Asteroids, Pole Position 2, it looks like.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that one is on the far end.
That's some kind of baseball game. It was like a pitch and bat game. They had some really old ones that were very fun to play.
Okay. So all these look pristine. That is a upright standard Disc of Tron. That is not the environmental, right?
Right.
That is a standard Disc of Tron. Still a rare game you hardly ever see. So let's see what else. Now some pinball machines here, Tim. Looks like we've got a couple of electromechanicals here. I see a Kiss for sure.
Yes.
And that's a what's that one next to Kiss? Is that Xeon?
I can't even remember now. They literally had like over 100 pinball games.
Wow.
And so many. And I guess I was trying to show that they kind of had them broken in different eras. They even had wood rails and stuff. And
there's a Star Trek in that picture for sure.
Yes, there's
an original
Next
Star
Generation
Trek
was there.
Yeah.
The original Star Trek was there.
Centaur. I see the Centaur. I'm not sure what that middle one is. I'm trying to remember. It's hard to see too in the picture. I'd have to look back at the
very
original,
fun.
Probably. So lots of cool stuff there. Let's see what else we have here, Tim. I see a haunted house.
Yes.
A gunfight.
Yes.
I see. Is that that's Demolition Man.
Yeah, Demolition Man was there.
Demolition Man. And this is
Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels. I was about to say.
They had Evil Knievel. They had the one that gets the tokens. They had that. I mean, there's Austin Powers down there. They just had. I mean, it was almost like there weren't very many pins they didn't have. It was crazy.
Sure. Oh, I went too
fast.
Okay,
coming.
Here we go. So what's that? That's an Attack from Mars. That's a Captain Fantastic. Let's see what else we got here. Revenge from Mars. It looks like, Tim. Twilight Zone.
Yes.
And then there's electromechanicals kind of mixed in with some of these too. We'll go on here.
The really old like
Star
wood
Trek
rails
TNG
and stuff.
right there.
That's fun.
And I was about to say some more wood rails right there. There's a Flash space mission, Tim. Those are pretty popular guys. I mean, golly. I mean, you can just see, like you said, it looks. It's
kind of something for everybody. It was just so fun. And, I saw a lot of kids playing the old wood rails and stuff. That was fun to me to see them.
And there's a Fire, Tim. Fun House. I'm trying to see what that one is. Is it? I can't tell.
I know they had a Medieval Madness if I didn't get a picture of it.
Whirlwind right there.
Yeah.
Is that Doctor Who?
Yep.
And then Joust Cocktail.
Joust Cocktail.
Joust Cocktail Pinball.
Yes.
Not not the video game.
Right.
So the pinball version, which we played at Pinball Festival before, I think I've seen. But Tim, there's something new in here too that you got to play. We're about to get to it. I see this old style crane here, Tim.
Yeah, just thought that just some cool stuff like that. It's all once you pay the one price, and that was really fun to play. And
then I also see an Evil Knievel, like you mentioned. That's a Tiger Heli. Is that what it is?
That was some kind of gun game. You see, it's a gun game.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff like that.
Here it is, Tim.
All right.
So you got to play this, so we need to hear your impressions of it. For you guys who are not watching, this is The Godfather by Jersey Jack Pinball. This just came out.
Yes.
And they had it.
They had it. He was like, hey, make sure you play Godfather. I'm like, you have a Godfather pin? He's like, just got it. I was like, let's play.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like the only person playing it, too. I just like, because, you feel bad. I'm like, does anybody else want to play? Nope. Okay, sorry. So I just kept playing it.
You didn't take any more pictures, but give us your impressions of Godfather. What did you think of it? Now, you've played a lot of the other Jersey Jack games. I know you played Wizard of Oz. We've played Dialed In. You've played, have you played Pirates before? I don't know.
Yes,
Okay,
he had all them.
Right, you played Toy Story 4.
Yes, he had every Jersey Jack pinball game there ever was.
Wow.
They were all there. I didn't take a lot of those pictures because I figured we'd talk about it.
Yeah.
Being from Jersey, guess what he didn't have?
What?
Any Stern pinballs, any new ones. He didn't have any Stern pinballs, but he had every Jersey Jack pin there was. So I got to play them all. Godfather was very fun. Of course, if you ever notice, like, it's hard to really get the good deal on a game when there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I'm not going to say it was noisy. I'm just saying I would love to have just that game and just sit there and play it and learn the rules. I'm just playing because it's fun, and it was there, and it did some really cool things.
So how did it compare? You recently played Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Which was the last Jersey Jack release. So if you're looking at Toy Story 4 and Godfather, what did you like about each one, and which one did you like better?
I would definitely say that there is a different play style. For some reason, I really liked the Toy Story 4. It was just fun. I think it's a great, and it kind of has that kids theme. I think it's a game that if you're like me, I am not a real pinball player. I'm an appreciator and I like to play, but I'm not in tournaments and stuff like that. I like a game that I can go to for the first time and feel like if I pay $1, I don't want it to drain 3 balls in 2 minutes or less and I'm out. Toy Story to me is kind of that. It's just easy to play. It flows really good. This is a lot more to it.
Okay.
And so, it's a little trickier. I'm watching it. I'm trying to figure out what's going on and balls draining, So, fortunately, I did get to play a lot. Now, if I had my personal collection, I definitely would love to have this one because I think the more you played it and the more you learn the rule set, it's definitely a player's game.
Okay.
I think that Toy Story is just more fun.
Gotcha.
In a way. Maybe I can say it that way.
Was there any game that any other pinball machine that Godfather reminds you of when you play it? Is there something comparable that you would compare it to?
No, I don't know. It was so different. I can't really think of anything off the bat. It played like a typical Jersey Jack game. If you notice how that you don't get a super really high score. Some of the points and stuff are just a little more probably realistic. You don't hit $1 million shots left and right, things like that. Doesn't have, it wasn't like you were hitting ramp after ramp after ramp. Kind of a stern deal sometimes where that flow is you're in the zone. This is more going all over the place, and so I would need to play it some more probably to get a more accurate description. I was just so happy it was there and having so much fun, and probably a beer or two. But at the same time, I was just having I was really in overload. Guys in the chat room, if you've never been there or you live near there, just imagine seeing the front of that building, and then going around and walking into that. Mm-hmm. I just was not expecting that. And the pictures really aren't doing it justice. I could have taken 20 more pictures. And they had a little party room, and they had I got some pizza, which was really good. Like I said, best time of the year to go. If you're within 100 miles, it's worth stopping for. Okay. That's how good it was.
Okay, I want to come back to Godfather.
Okay.
Because I know there's probably going to be some other questions. Were there any modes or anything that just really got you? It just
really lights up very bright.
Okay.
And I would say that, so, which at my old age is really good. So you ever play a game that's kind of dark? To me, even Wizard of Oz, for all the colors and stuff, it's kind of dark. It's almost hard to see in certain areas. That's what I liked about this one. It's very lit, very bright. I could follow the ball a lot, and so that helped me a lot to play it. It was just fun. I can't remember. I did get a couple multi-balls. Of course, it's been a few weeks since I played it, but I just was having a good time. I was just so in overload. Number one, that I even had it there. And, but I definitely would highly recommend playing it at least. I don't know that I would probably ever own one just because the prices for everything are so crazy. But at the same time, if you had a chance to play it, I don't think you'd be disappointed at all. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of whodunit kind of deal. It had a lot of, hit it here, unlock this and do that. And, and like I said, the rule set seemed pretty deep to me. But again, taking consideration I'm not a professional player, somebody else say, really, that rule set was stupid easy. Right. I don't know. This is my opinion. It seemed pretty deep to more that I felt like I could play it. Now, it was kind of my first couple games were pretty quick, but the more I played it, the better I was getting, the better I wasn't kind of looking here and there. It has a lot of color. You can see the playfield is really lit up.
I'll throw it up here one more time.
I just thought it has a fantastic look. And I could, like I said, couldn't hear all the things that were saying. They didn't have the sound turned way up, and you got a ton of noise going on in that place. A lot of games going on. But not noisy, not uncomfortable noise.
Now, a lot of times Jersey Jack games have the little headphone. Too bad you didn't bring your headphones
right?
with you.
I could have brought my headphones. That would have been
jack in it.
That would have been awesome.
Well, I'm glad you got to play it, Tim. It sounds like you did like it. It sounds like Toy Story 4 though is more your favorite, right?
To me, just to walk up and play a game. I played a game of Toy Story 4. You would have thought I was a professional pinball player. People were watching me, and I looked like I was just. it's a little bit faster play, a little less deeper rule set to me. That it was just simple. Right. I'm just hitting ramps and hitting ramps and hitting ramps, and I'm scoring. And I think I did get one of their top 5 scores, but that was really unusual for me. This game was way different. I was like, I didn't play very long at all the first couple of games. I'm just like, it was a lot on that play field.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sounds like you still had a good time with it.
Oh, I had a blast.
It sounds like you had a good time overall.
I love to play it. Yeah, and just, like I said, if you're within 100 miles of that place, Asbury Park is kind of central New Jersey shore, right up the shore. Probably an hour and a half maybe from New York City, I guess. I'm not sure on that. But Philadelphia, you're about an hour and 15 minutes. So not too far a drive. It'd be worth it for the weekend.
Okay, well, sounds good. Well, thanks for telling us about your trip, Tim, to the Silverball Retro Arcade in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to check that out. And if you do, let us know what you thought. We'd love to hear it in the comments below. Well, Tim, without any further ado, let's get into the discussion questions. And we got several of them this month, Tim. We got a lot of news this month. This is a packed out month for kind of video game and arcade related news. But Tim, we posed this question. We kind of briefly talked about it on the last episode, or we teased it, saying that we were going to have this question coming up that we were very interested in. And so now the post went live and we can talk about it here. So let's talk about this real quick, Tim. Do you tip game techs?
Okay.
That's the question. So for all those who are in the live chat, maybe this is a question that you'd like to answer. So a user on the Dave & Buster's Reddit page posted a question recently about tipping game techs. We thought it would make for an interesting discussion. So what do you think, Tim? Should you tip them? If you are a game tech, have you ever received a tip? So those are something for the live chat there. But Tim, it's been a while. But I thought that we would bring back everybody's favorite segment, the arcade debate. I think it's been at least like a year since we've done this, Tim. But we are going to do it again on this topic. So tonight's arcade debate topic is, as a customer, should you tip the game techs at your local arcade location, Tim? Okay. So, guys, we are going to set this up just like we normally do. We are going to debate, and I'm going to go ahead. We're going to get our boxes. I'm going to get ready. Here we go. We're getting ready to fight here, and we're going to do a reset real quick, and then we'll debate it. Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the arcade debate segment for this evening. Tonight, we have quite a conundrum for you guys. What should you do about techs, game techs? Should you tip them? Is that something you should do? We recently discovered a post on the Dave & Buster's Reddit page saying that a certain customer tips his game techs at his local Dave & Buster's location. So, with that in mind, we thought that we'd bring this up for our arcade debate. So, what do you think? Should you tip game techs at your local arcade location? So, me and Tim will debate this right now. Tim, I send it to you. What do you think? Should you tip arcade game techs? Now, I think I know where you're going to fall on this, considering you were one at one point. Okay. But why don't you go ahead and tell us, what is your argument, sir?
Okay. Well, I'll see if I take the side that you think I'm going to take, John. I would say no. I would think that it's not a low-paying, low-end job that depends on tips. I think it is your job to keep the games running and operating, looking like new. It shouldn't be something that you're tipped for. Having said that, I'm sure there are circumstances. What about you, John?
Well, I will take the yes on this, Tim. So I will take the opposite of you. I thought you would definitely come down on the yes on this, considering you were a game tech, but I guess I will have to take the yes on this. So I will give you the reasons why we should tip game techs. Now, I will take the argument that you just made, Tim, and the fact that it's their job, but guess what? It's also a barista's job to make that coffee at Starbucks for me, but I still tip that person too, Tim. Right. So I'm just saying, I mean, when you go to a location that has pristine games, doesn't that game tech deserve maybe a little bit more than what his average salary is supposed to be? I mean, because game techs vary, Tim. Some are great, some are not so great. Shouldn't those that are great maybe get us something a little extra? That's my point. What do you think?
I can see your point, Jonathan, but at the same time, it's not a service type of industry. Most of them don't speak to you. They don't. They're there. They're there to do a job. It's kind of like a mechanic. They're already charging enough for you to play games. It's built in the price for their salary and stuff. So I don't see that it's necessary. Now, having said that it's necessary to tip, doesn't mean that I don't think that for really outstanding service that you shouldn't. but I don't see that it is something that would be the norm throughout everywhere.
Well, now I understand that too. Now there's a difference, Tim, between expecting a tip and giving somebody a tip.
I
Okay,
agree.
now I don't think that necessarily game tech should expect to be tipped like
Right.
some industries are. Like when you get an Uber or something like that, you kind of expect if you're the driver, you're going to get a tip. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, what I'm saying is that if you find a particularly good game tech, you should tip them. I mean, am I wrong?
Okay. Well, if you got a good game tech, they should be the place that you frequent. And by spending money there, you will keep them employed. And by telling your friends, or maybe you can write a nice post about how clean and nice the games were. A lot of times those do more in the long run than just a short-term run. I mean, if you're going to do a life-changing tip, maybe $100 or $1,000, why not? That'd be great. But really a few bucks, and maybe he can buy some Starbucks when he gets off of work, but I don't see it as necessary. If he's doing his job, which is what he should be doing, then he's getting paid a decent salary. It's normally not included in something that a service that you would tip for.
Well, now I understand. Again, I think here where we're having the disconnect is you're saying normally, okay, and I understand that I'm the same way. I don't know if this is something I would normally tip for.
All right.
But I'm saying I go into a location, all the games are pristine. I see a game tech working just round the clock, going from game to game to game, cleaning, scrubbing, fixing every coin jam, fixing every bad monitor. I mean, I see this guy literally running around the arcade fixing everything. I think that I might slip a $5 bill in his pocket. I'm just saying.
As a former game tech, I would have taken. Seemed like the only tip I ever got was if I was bussing tables, and somebody would leave something like that. But I think it is a good idea, and we can end and we can see what the group says. You know, for instance, like you're saying, if the games are pristine, if it's better than the average game room, or maybe they interact with your kid, maybe or with you, or they teach you how to play. I like to go where the game tech maybe will show you a tip or a trick or something. I've seen them play with a kid here. Let me show you how to win this or do this or something. Sometimes when they really go out beyond, but that's any service, right? Whether it be a cashier or the cook or whatever, anybody that goes above and beyond. But I think that I wouldn't like to see the industry pay them less salary thinking that then they'll have to get more tips. I don't want it to become like that. I don't want Dave and Buster saying, well, yeah, how about we just put a sign or a jar out there that says tips, but we're not going to give you a raise next year. You're going to have to earn those tips. I wouldn't want to see that happen.
Well, point taken, Tim, and I think we'll end it there, and we'll let the people decide. What do you think? Is it okay to tip game techs? Is it something that should be expected or not? I mean, what do you think? Let us know in the comment section or down below, and give us your opinion. We'd love to hear it. But I think me and you can both agree, Tim, it's probably not a regular thing, but I definitely think that if you find a good game tech, it may be worth slipping them a little bit of money. Just saying. So, you guys, thank you for watching tonight. We hope to see you back here soon, and thank you for joining us for the arcade debate. Okay, Tim. Done.
Well, one of the best things I think that ever happened to me was when I was a tech and we had a lot of regular customers. I remember one of them owned a like a massage parlor or something, and for Christmas one year they were like, all year long you're always been good. So they gave me like a free gift certificate or whatever to their massage place. I thought that was kind of cool. So sometimes I would, if you were going to do it, I would do it kind of big. You know, something that really says, maybe this is your favorite location. I do think it's a good idea. I think that, and I thought I'd just take the no just to be fun. But at the same time, I think it's a great idea. What about you guys in the chat room? Have y'all ever had an extraordinary experience or just, that's one thing when I was at that arcade in Asbury, I couldn't believe how working everything was and clean. I mean, you saw those pictures. I was just like, if they had a game down, they did a good job about pulling it off the floor, whatever. There wasn't a game on that floor that wasn't lit up and playing. Yeah. So that was good.
Let's go to the live chat real quick. Joe says no tips, but you guys look super young in that picture. If that's even Jonathan. Yeah, that's still me. So actually, the thing about it is that I lost weight. Like I used to be heavier. So actually I'm in better shape now than I was in my early 20s, if you remember too. So I mean, so yeah, it's still us. We're still there. Let's see. Steven says I always do when they come to repair my pin. So that may be something different, Tim. What if somebody comes to your house and fixes your games? Do you tip them?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because
that's a service.
Yeah, but a lot of times that built in the price. It kind of depends on the price. Let's say that they estimated it would be $300, and they get there and they're honest and they say, "Man, I found the problem. It's only going to be $100." Well, man, I'd love to turn around and say, "Well, here's 150 or 200," because if I'm, but most of the time that is a service, and so based on their performance or overall savings, sometimes it's just really expensive though, and if they're working for a corporation or something where they're getting a lot of that, then I would kind of tip them. Kind of like movers. Let's say movers. Movers come, they do a good job. It's a local moving company. You know that if you give them an extra $50, that's going to his family's table that night. You use a nationwide moving company, you give them $50 extra, they may never even see it. So sometimes maybe I would consider something like that.
Current Phonograph says that's ridiculous.
Okay.
So he comes in you. Jumping General says if you guys will come open an arcade in 2024, I will tip everyone. So,
for sure.
I think it really just depends on how it goes. I think if I go into a game room, like I said, and it's pristine, and I can tell that the guys have been hustling really hard, I'm probably going to throw you a little bit. Because, here's the thing, Tim. I don't always go to the same arcade all the time. And so it may be I'm just, like you were just in New Jersey just for a little bit.
Yeah.
You may say, you know what, I'm going to throw these guys an extra $5. Not just because I know you guys are doing good work. Or whatever,
well, it's kind of like we like to get food to go a lot. Like we'll just call ahead and go pick it up. On my way home, I'll call a restaurant and pick it up. I used to never tip because nobody waited on me. Nobody brought me a drink. Nobody did that. And then one of my daughter's friends was working someplace. She goes, "Oh, man, I hate working over there on that line because we never get any tips. And we have to spend all that time bagging it up and all this stuff." And ever since she said that, I was like, they put napkins in there and they sack it up for you. I'm like, and when I get it home, if it's hot or it's bagged correctly and food's not all over, I'm like, I really should start tipping. So sometimes it doesn't always, and so it's not like I give them $10 or $15 or anything, but sometimes if it's $23, I'll round it up to $25, or I'll just throw a couple bucks cash. I think that realistically, we should probably tip. And if anybody, heck, I had a cashier the other day that was just so friendly, and and I was like, I normally don't tip a cashier, but for whatever reason, I was paying in cash and I had $2 left. And I told her, just keep the change. I said, you were so friendly today. And, customers were not being very friendly, and she just handled her business really well. So I think we should look for more opportunities in any field that we should to tip more people if they're doing a good service. But everything's just got so expensive as it is. It's like you're already paying so much. My boss would have just said, you should do that because it's your job.
Right.
But
Joe says, you always tip the movers, but no game techs. So here's the thing. I do think that we've gotten in. I think tipping we've gotten to like, what's the word? We're getting into like an over tipping culture, and what I mean by that is not people over tipping. It's that we're getting hit up for tips everywhere.
Right.
Okay. It's like everywhere I go now hits me up for tips.
Yeah.
Like everywhere, and I understand that. And so I'm not talking about it on the regular. I wouldn't say like you're not tipping your game tech on the regular.
Yeah, you're at the gas station. They got a tip jar right in front.
Exactly.
I'm like,
What'd
just
you do?
paid $60 for a tank of gas.
Now, if it's full service, that's different.
Yeah, that's different. But all you did was ring me up.
Right.
I mean, what are you doing?
Right.
It should be for something a little bit above and beyond the normal.
So if you see a game tech doing something above and beyond, why not give them a tip? They don't have to be much. Or like Tim mentioned, you could go big. If it's a place you frequent all the time and the guy's always in there doing a good job, go big.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was a good debate, Tim.
Well, it's a good debate, and interested to see different people's opinions. But most thing is just I've never regretted giving a tip. In the end, I don't really remember. I just you err on the side of giving too much.
Yes.
If you're going to err on that side. People that, especially those workers that really do depend on tips and that work really hard for those tips, err on the side of giving too much, not too little.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, there's another thing that came up on the Dave & Buster's Reddit page that I wanted to bring up. Okay. We did discuss this too on the social media pages. Do patrons respect arcade games?
No.
A customer at Dave & Buster's recently noticed that the air hockey pushers are now tied up to the cabinet. His theory was that it kept people from stealing them. This begs the question posed above. Have you ever seen patrons disrespecting games? What did they do? And Tim, if you go back on our social media post, you will find a list of all the things people have done. Here's the thing: you always got a couple of bad eggs in there that are gonna be rough on games, and it doesn't matter what your location is or where you're at. You're always gonna have some incidents where people aren't respecting the machinery and aren't taking care of it. It's anywhere you go, okay. And I mean, we do our best to prevent that. Tim, when we ran a location, we did our best to try to prevent that kind of stuff. But sometimes it happens, okay. I mean, you can't prevent everything, and so it's frustrating when you're a location owner and you have to repair something that somebody else purposefully broke for the most part. But Tim, it never discouraged me from continuing to operate games. That was never the reason why we got out of it. And so the vast majority of people are great, I feel like. But all it takes, as you guys know, a couple of bad eggs can really ruin it for the rest of us, right? I mean, it's all it takes. And it really sucks that that's the case. But that's usually how it is. And so, Tim, we had people break into our games on one of our locations, and now you got to do something different because people are breaking into your games. Now the operator has to respond, got to put bigger locks on there, whatever it is, and it's like, well, man, and so, or you'll see a game that maybe had a piece of plexiglass, they put a metal panel there because they don't want people breaking into it. And it's like, man, now I can't see as well, or whatever. And it's like, it just happens. We've got to adapt with everybody else. If the games start getting broken into, we got to adapt to that,
For sure.
So I mean, it sucks being on the operator end on that because it's kind of like if somebody will do something, you kind of have to respond. But it's never deterred us from operating, and I think that's what most of the people said on Facebook. Tim, was that most of the people who are arcade owners said, bad stuff happens, but we just deal with it basically, and it's part of the price of having a public facing business.
I guess one of the questions I would pose, if you saw somebody disrespecting a game, would you turn them in to management or
that's
something?
a good question. Yeah.
I think in most cases,
something to I think in most cases, it depends on how egregious.
Right.
If it was pretty bad, like if there were some kids throwing skee balls at like a monitor, I would probably say something right there to the kids. I mean, just like, don't do that. You're going to break something and hurt somebody.
Right.
I mean, it's like safety things, right? Any kind of safety thing, I think you have to really talk about because, I mean, that's important. But like if they're just, I don't know, if they're just being dumb or something and, I mean, that I might be like, oh, whatever kind of thing. It just really depends. Nate says, as an operator, I deal with this every single week. Just today, kids were running on top of the air hockey table, jumping on the control panels, and sitting on top of the arcade games taking photos. We see this at auctions a lot. The nice thing about arcade games is they can take being sat on a lot of times, I've noticed. But I wouldn't personally sit up on top of an arcade cabinet, but at auctions, we've seen people do it for sure. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, I mean, I just hate that we live in a world where that kind of stuff happens. I feel like now, Tim, we need to put beds of nails on top of all of our games so people won't climb on them. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I hate that we have to adapt like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but it is what it is. A few bad apples spoil the whole bunch.
I sure do.
So. And what's the people? That's a song by whatever the group is. I forget. So
somebody sang
I'm
it.
old.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so there you go. It was interesting though. You can go back to the Facebook page, like I said, and see what all the people said. But
okay.
For the most part, it didn't. People were pretty. People were just like, it's just part of it. So. Next little part here, Tim. How The Last of Us recreated a 2003 arcade with the help of true enthusiasts. And Tim, you and I mentioned in the last episode in the after show that we watched The Last of Us, and it was so cool to see this Raja's arcade scene come on the screen and just see all the games. They did a really good job with it. And so The Last of Us HBO series went to great lengths to recreate a 2003 mall arcade for a recent episode. KLOV members Josh Brown and Chance Johnson, who together make up the Canadian arcade here on YouTube, consulted with HBO on the episode. The duo unpacks a lot of tricks, workarounds, and concessions necessary for the scene. And Tim, on this Mortal Kombat 2, they said that they had, I think, a vertically mounted 42-inch monitor in this cabinet that they had recorded all the scenes of them playing Mortal Kombat and then put filters on it to make it look like a CRT.
Okay.
And that was how they actually recreated the Mortal Kombat 2 playing.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's a lot to work with.
Right.
But it does, I mean, it looks great in the video, for sure. So, really cool. But you should read the whole article there because it kind of breaks it down. And you can go back and read the KLOV posts, too, where they talk about all of that. But great job by them because that scene really did look super authentic when it came up. It definitely was a highlight of the show for me. So 2003, was there any arcades left, Joe says. We had arcade here till like 2011, 12. I mean, and it was a nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cyberzone.
I still see one occasionally here and there.
Yeah, so I mean, there were arcades. So, I mean, people forget, Tim. It's like, it just, I mean, obviously they've fallen out, but now we see a resurgence, right? I mean, now there's definitely a resurgence. So, but if you saw that, you probably saw that scene, and Tim, it was just a cool scene to see, for sure.
Great scene.
So... Tim, we also posted this Defender arcade rebuilt to settle a childhood memory. And Tim, I love this cabinet. It is a miniature arcade Defender. It really is. It's so cool. Jason Winfield had a nemesis, the Defender arcade machine. Having put quite a number of coins into one during his childhood, he's since found himself as a seasoned maker and decided to hold a rematch on his own terms. For this, he recreated the machine from scratch, building it around the guts of a Dell laptop, Tim, so it's an emulated version. And he tells us the story about what it took to build the new Defender in this day and age. And Tim, I don't know, I mean, obviously it's emulated, but man, it looks nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a tabletop Defender would have looked in 1980 with the wood grain and everything. If you guys have a chance to check out this article from Hackaday about it, you should. And he has a YouTube video that he describes how he built it and everything. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't already.
Nice.
Okay, Tim, here's the one for you. Chuck E. Cheese still uses floppy disks to control its nightmare machines. That's the title of the article from Gizmodo, Tim. So TikTok user Showbiz Pizza Man, who goes by Stuart, documented how his Chuck E. Cheese uses floppy disks to load the character shows. Stuart shows the floppy disk, which reads Evergreen Show 2023, and loads it into the dusty computer looming over him. After a few moments of bleeps, boops, and flashing lights, Stuart pans to the monitor attached to the computer tower, which spits out lines of seemingly gibberish code in black and white. And Tim, you can confirm that this was the case as of you working at Chuck E. Cheese, correct?
Yes, when we went to disc probably about 2016, it's probably that late. Maybe around the 2015, somewhere after 2010 for sure, we went to a DVD, which you just popped a DVD in. But always before that, you would get the floppy disk and you would put it in there and you would load it up and then turn it off and then put the disc in and it would play.
So I'm sure not all Chuck E. Cheese
not
locations.
everybody was updated.
Yeah, I was about to say, got that. And here's the thing, they're doing away with the animatronic shows.
A lot of them are going away.
And so there's no reason to upgrade the equipment at this point. They'll just keep dealing with it until they eventually go to the dance floor with the Chuck E. Cheese mascot dance person. So yes, they do still use floppy disk, but Tim, those machines probably won't be in operation much longer.
Probably not.
So there you go.
Very few and far between right now.
Yeah, exactly. But if you want to see the video of Showbiz Pizza Man, Stuart here, putting the disc in and it loading, you can watch it. It's pretty fascinating still. Jumping General says, miss the days of arcades and movie theaters, department stores, and gas stations. We still have arcades in our movie theaters. I mean, just a couple here and there for sure, but I mean...
Not everyone.
Not everyone, but some. So, Tim, we talked about 3 pinball releases last time, and we had 2 more that actually popped up after the live show, which is amazing to me. Pulp Fiction and Final Resistance, which is for the P3 platform.
Okay.
So both these were at the Texas Pinball Festival. So the Final Resistance, of course, is by Multimorphic for the P3 platform, and the Pulp Fiction is by Play Mechanix and Chicago Gaming Company. So far, both games have received positive reactions from the members in the pinball community. Tim, it seemed like coming out of Pinball Festival that Pulp Fiction may have been the most talked about machine there.
Maybe
because
so.
it's very early solid state styled. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
It does not have, I don't even think it has a DMD on it or any kind of digital video screen or LCD.
Which is different.
Right. It's more like, it plays more like a classic style game, and it has a cool topper. Did you see the topper on it with the dancing and everything? And the theme, of course, a lot of people love Pulp Fiction, so it seemed like of all the games that were at the Pinball Festival, I heard more about Pulp Fiction than anything. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But you guys can check these out. There's some video links to the trailers for these games, so you guys can check them out. But overall, I heard nothing but great things about the Texas Pinball Festival. Tim, I wish we could have made it, but we're so busy now. It's so hard to make it. And but like I said, Mark was there, and Mark it sounded like Mark had a fantastic time, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he traded in some stuff and got a Star Trek Next Generation pinball machine. So congratulations, Mark. We hope you get a lot of fun out of that. Tim, that's one of my favorite games. That's a Steve Ritchie wide body game, which I think Steve said he'd never do another wide body again, so that may be the last one. But it is a fantastic game. One of my favorites for sure. Star Trek Next Generation is so fun. So fun. Now, Tim, there were some movies that came out. And I talked to you about watching them, and I guess you didn't get around to either one.
I did not get to.
Now, typically we save movies for the after show, but Tim, these movies are arcade and video game themed, right? So the two big ones were Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game, and Tetris. Okay, so Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game is on demand. You can pay for it and watch it. Tetris is on Apple TV Plus, and it has Taron Egerton in it. So the two new video game pinball-related movies that have been released are the two that I mentioned. So Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game focuses on Roger Sharp, the young Midwesterner who helped overturn New York City's 35-year-old ban on pinball machines. So, Tim, I watched it. Now, I've met Roger. I'm friends with him on Facebook. Super nice guy.
Sure,
okay, super nice. And I tell you what, I got a real kick out of this movie, I guess. Just seeing him. The actor that portrays him like now looks almost identical to him.
They did. I noticed that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so close. I mean, his mannerisms are a little bit different, but that actor nailed him almost completely. And then I thought the whole thing was fun and good and highly recommended. I would definitely, even if you're not that into pinball, I thought it told a complete story, did a really good job. It's kind of told from, I guess, the now Roger Sharp from back when all this was taking place, and it was really interesting. So highly recommend that one. Tetris is the story of how the world's most popular video game found its way to players around the globe. Now, Tim, the funny thing about Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game, is that, like I said, it's like the story's being told by Roger Sharp now, and he's telling the story of the past. And so the now Roger Sharp keeps popping up in different scenes and saying, that's not how it happened, this is how it happened.
Funny.
So in Tetris, though, Tetris is different. Tetris does tell the story, but you can tell that they way over dramatized it, and they threw in a car chase scene like right at the end, I feel like, just to throw something in there.
Okay.
And I did not appreciate that, but overall, it was fun to watch.
Okay.
So I highly recommend both of these movies. If you have Apple TV Plus, which you should right now, because season 3 of Ted Lasso's on there, but it is definitely worth your time, definitely worth a watch. Joe says Tetris documentary is crazy. I can't wait to see the exaggerated film version. Yes. I've seen the documentary on Tetris 2, which is really good, and probably tells the actual story. This is a highly dramatized version of that you can tell goes for a lot of effect. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So, but overall, I liked it. I really liked it, and both of them are good. So check both of them out. You should watch both of them. Now, Tim, there's a movie that just came out.
Yes.
Okay, and in theaters. In fact, it came out yesterday. The Super Mario movie is now in theaters. So the Super Mario movie is out. The movie features Chris Pratt as Mario, Anna Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, Charlie Day as Luigi, Jack Black as Bowser, Michael Key as Toad, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, and some cameos by Charles Martinet. Tim, do you know who he is?
No.
The original voice of Mario.
Okay.
I say the original. The current voice of Mario in the
Okay.
games. Runtime is an hour and 44 minutes. The movie does have a mid-credits scene, Tim, and a post-credits scene.
Okay.
Stay till the end. So, coming back around here, Tim, this is why we're renting the movie theater.
Right.
So I told my wife I didn't want really anything for my birthday. I just wanted to rent a movie theater and have 60 of my closest friends come watch the movie with me. So that's what we're doing. So Tim will be there with his wife and y'all's nephews.
Two great nephews.
Okay. And several of my other friends will be there. We're going to have a packed house probably, Tim. It's going to be, we're going to have quite a few people in this showing. So, we are all going to a local movie theater and we are going to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie. So next month, Tim, we will talk about what we thought.
Right.
So you guys will have it. But we also, if you've seen it now or if you're planning to see it, let us know. I want to know thoughts. Tim, the reviews have kind of been all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get an idea. I think people were expecting too much from this. Guys, it's a kid's movie.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I expect, Illumination, who does this movie, also did Minions. Okay. Like, have you seen Minions?
Right.
Like, they
Should
just
be a little corny.
Yeah. I mean, that's all they do. Okay. It's like, we're not looking for deep storylines here.
Right.
I want good guys versus bad guys. I want good guys to win.
There you go.
Boom. Like, I mean, just do it. So, I think I'm going to like it. I don't think... some people are looking for like deep emotional impact, Tim. I'm not looking for that in my kids' movies at all.
No.
I mean, if it happens, I guess that's good. But I mean, for the most part, not looking for that.
The kids laugh, we'll say it was a success.
Exactly. So, but stay till the end. There's a mid-credit and a post-credit scene. And so we will all be seeing it Saturday, Tim. You, me, and like I said, 60 of my other friends will all be there and their families will all be there to watch it. So we're going to have a really good time. Looking forward to that. And that is my birthday present to me, or my wife's birthday present to me, or somebody's birthday present to me. I don't know. You're pitched on that too, so it's your birthday present to me
Part
too.
Of
so,
it, yeah.
So thank you for that. But yes, we're looking forward to that. We will be doing that this weekend. So, well, Tim, I think we've wrapped it up.
Okay.
Wow. Golly, it's been a busy one. I feel like we've almost gone 2 hours tonight.
Almost.
Longer than usual, but we had a lot to cover. Let's put a reminder out there again, Tim. Last reminder, if you guys want to win this Astro AI 4000 count true RMS digital multimeter with auto ranging capability, you need to send us an email at contest@arcaderepairtips.com with your name and mailing address and the password Easter. Yes. Okay, Easter is what we're looking for. So send an email to contest@arcaderepairtips.com. Name, mailing address, and password Easter. Now, we do not sell your data. All the emails just go into a folder. I never give it to anybody else. I will never sell your data. I don't believe in that. So if you say, the only reason I want your mailing address is so if you win, I can just ship it to you. I don't have to worry about getting back in touch with you. We've had some winners that I've emailed 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. They don't ever get back with me. I want to make sure whoever wins, I just ship it out to you. So, again, contest@arcaderepairtips.com. Send an email there with your name, your mailing address, and the password Easter. If the password Easter is not in there, you ain't getting it. I need that.
All right.
So there you go.
Gotta win.
Yeah, 24 hours. 24 hours from this. Okay. So, Tim, let's go ahead and wrap it up then. Okay, we have our reminder here. We want your arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send the link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put in a plug for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. And then, of course, Tim, we have our contact information. You can email us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Best way to get a hold of us. If you would like your question specifically on the live show, make sure you put live show in the subject line to get it mentioned. Otherwise, we'll try to answer it whenever we get around to it. We may move it to the live show, just depending as well. But it is definitely the best way to get a hold of us. Questions@arcaderepairtips.com. And we have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com, youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Of course, those of you who are here right now live know that. You're watching probably the YouTube stream. But for those of you guys who may be listening to the audio podcast version of this, if you would like to check out the after show, or maybe you want to see all those pictures Tim took at the Silverball Museum in Asbury Park, New Jersey, if you want to see those pictures, you will need to check out the YouTube video for episode 74. And that can be found at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. And if you leave comments on this live show episode, we will try to cover them on the next episode. And then we have our podcast feed, of course. And like I said, some of you guys may be listening to the audio podcast feed right now for this show. And if you are, that's great. If you're listening to it on iTunes, we would be grateful if you would rate us, especially if you like it. Give us a 5-star review. That'd be awesome. If you're not going to give us a 5-star review, just please send us an email and let us know what we need to improve. We always like constructive criticism around here. But you can find the iTunes page at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, itunes.arcaderepairtips.com on iTunes. We're also on Spotify at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com. Tim, Spotify is my preferred method for listening to music and things. Not podcasts so much, but definitely for music. Spotify.arcaderepairtips.com. We are there as well. And we have our Stitcher radio page at stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com. Or you can search for Arcade Repair wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. So whatever your podcast app is of choice, Podcast Addict, or I don't know, whatever other ones that you use nowadays. There's so many different podcast apps now, Tim. I can't keep Pocket Cast, whatever you're using. Search for Arcade Repair. You're probably going to find us. So there you go. And then we have our social media pages. We have our Facebook page at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and our Twitter feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com, which we will remain on Twitter until they shut the whole thing down, which, Tim, you never know when that's going to happen, especially with the way Elon's running it lately.
Could be.
But as long as it's there, we'll be there. And we want to thank Mark for all of his contributions to the community. And like I mentioned, he went to the Pinball Festival and he got to play some pinball machines, which is pretty awesome. And also got to buy one, which is pretty cool too. So thank you, Mark, for your contributions. But if you guys would like to check out our Facebook page, that's facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. or twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. Pretty much the same content either way you go. It just depends on where you want to find us. And Tim, that about does it for this episode. Now, we have some things to talk about in the after show, and so I do want to mention this, because you had like an awesome idea that I just absolutely loved.
Okay.
We talked about baseball cards, because you gave me this cool Nolan Ryan card for my birthday.
Right.
Okay, but you brought something else with you.
I did.
And I'm going to give it to you. And so
Okay.
you can show everybody else. So in the after show, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here. We're going to be talking baseball, because baseball season's just started up. But we got baseball cards, Tim, but you brought something besides the Nolan Ryan card.
I did. From my personal collection, I brought a unopened pack that I have had since probably 1988 or 89, a set of 87 Donruss. And I thought, for fun, why am I just holding on to these and they're storing a lot of dust, they're not gaining a lot of value? We're going to open it and see what we pull out. And just for fun to see what kind of, since it's baseball season, we love baseball. We're going to talk about some baseball and see if we can't pull out a valuable card tonight. Maybe help us pay for another live show sometime. But anyway, or nothing else, we'll have bragging rights or something. But anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some movies, a little bit about sports and different things that we've been participating in. So we hope that you stick around for that. If not, this is where you sign off. We thank you for watching tonight. Hope that it's been entertaining and that you've learned something. By all means, keep those questions coming. And
I want to say this real quick. So
any kind of
there could be a valuable card in here.
There could be. We're going to hope to pull out a Greg Maddux rookie or a Bo Jackson or a Barry Bonds. There's some definitely Mark McGuire.
So this is 1988 on it. It says all 26 1988 Diamond King. The Diamond Kings. I have some of those.
Okay.
The Diamond Kings prints. Remember those?
So
the
this is an
artistic
88.
ones. Okay.
I just grabbed it. I've got a bunch of them.
Yeah. So this is from 1988. So I mean, you
Okay,
guys want to talk about
88
80s culture, man? I was knee deep in these kind of packages when I was a kid.
Me too.
Gum too. This one I have the gum in
yeah.
it, but gum too.
Right. Don't chew the gum.
That's right. So, but we will be opening that during the after show. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
just for fun.
Yeah.
Just I thought it's baseball season. I knew I was going to give you the Nolan Ryan card. I thought, well, maybe we'll pull another Nolan Ryan tonight, and we'll see what we get.
Absolutely. So, and we'll be talking about shows we're watching. We'll be talking about what Tim did for his birthday, because we obviously we had him on here for his birthday, but then he celebrated, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that and maybe a little bit more about your trip and some other things as well. So if you want to stay tuned from that, you're more than welcome to if you're watching live. Of course, you can also fast forward if you're just watching the recording of this, and you'll eventually get there. The after show happens about 10 to 15 minutes, or 5 to 10, really. 5 to 10 minutes after the regular live show. So if you're watching this video, you can just kind of fast forward. Lately, Tim, we've been marking the chapters.
Okay.
So there may be a chapter that just says after show beginning.
Okay.
Or begins. And if that's the case, just jump there and you'll be good to go. But otherwise, if this is your off-ramp, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We want to give a big round of applause to the live chat.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys, especially those of you who donated. That is
Yes.
awesome. We thank you guys so much. Just awesome having you guys here. We love having you here. It makes the show so much better when we get a lot of good questions and comments and things from the live chat. So we want to thank all of you guys for being here. Remember, we're always here the first Thursday night of every month at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. And sometimes 5 after.
Yeah.
Not always right at 35, but most of the time. So we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you guys who made donations as well. We appreciate those. But Tim, I think we're ready to go, huh?
Let's go.
Okay, so thank you again, guys. We look forward to seeing you here in May. Tim will be our next episode. And remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game,
You play the game.
take care, everybody. We'll see you in the after show, or we'll see you next month for another live show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back, everybody, for the after show of episode 74. Tim, what'd you think of the show?
I thought it was good. We had, like I said, a lot of news and things to cover. It was a pretty action-packed show. Plus, good giveaway. So I hope somebody still listening is going to win that.
We're going to check to see if any of you guys actually sent in some entries. That's what I was going to check while we were off there, Tim. I can see real quick. Oh, we do. We have some.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to say how many.
Well, good luck to you guys.
It's a handful. How about that?
Well, good.
That give
so,
everybody an
hope
idea?
that you guys can win that tonight. And if not, look for future giveaways and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. In 24 hours, too. So anything that comes in after 5:30 Central Time tomorrow, I'm going to disregard. Okay. So, exactly. That's the cutoff. So, but hopefully somebody wins that. That's a really good one, I thought. And if a lot of you guys bought them. And if you bought them, you might as well have an extra.
Right.
I mean,
you can't have too many. Keep one in the car.
Yeah. Tim, I've got 2 Multimorphs just sitting up here.
Right. You got 2 right in front of us.
Here, coming in. See, check this out. Ready to go. So you just never know when you're going to need one. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's always good to have multiples if you can. So, yeah. So, again, hopefully somebody will win that who needs it.
It's funny. I've actually showed my wife how she can check a battery with one.
Yeah.
And I caught her that day. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, see if the battery is good. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, get you go.
Well, I'm looking forward to you guys coming to the movie theater to see the movie. We were just talking about that.
Me too.
So,
It'll be fun.
We did this last year for the Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Tim couldn't make it. You guys had something to do that weekend or something.
Something was going on.
But yeah, it was your sister passed.
Yeah, my niece.
Your niece.
My niece, we were having our memorial service.
Yeah, so that's what it was. That's why you guys can make it. So he can make it this year. That's good. And we're just going to have a whole bunch of people there. Looking forward to it because I'm more excited probably about this movie than I am the Sonic movie. And I was pretty excited about that one. So I think we'll have a good time. But anyway, rewind a bit. Tim, how'd your March go overall? I know you had your birthday after we did the live show.
Right.
Okay, so what did you do with your family? And
the family had a birthday party for me. Gosh, I'm even trying. Just last week's hard to remember. Now we're talking about a month ago. What did I do? I think I just got some money and some stuff. They had a birthday party for me, and we had some good times and good things. Typical. Just had good fun. Birthday cake, that kind of stuff. Not much else than just March. I had to get ready for that right the next week. I went to New Jersey. So that was a good trip. It was a interesting area. A lot of people think of New Jersey. They think of Newark or Jersey being on the other side of New York City. And this was more of the shore, and it was really pretty and wasn't crowded at all. It was kind of nice. The weather was kind of crazy. The first day I got there, it rained. The second day, it snowed. But it wasn't sticking to the ground because the ground was probably it was like 34 degrees. But it was, when I say snow, it was snowing so hard, I had to have my windows shield wipers on high. It was like and the wind was blowing. It was super windy. And then 2 days later, it was like 60 degrees, and, you could have wore shorts. So it was kind of a crazy weather week. For those of you that live in New Jersey or know, there's just a couple things I will point out that I would make mention about New Jersey. Speed limit signs there are just for looks. Nobody pays any attention to them at all.
Well, my friend would say the speed limit is the lowest
suggested,
speed.
Yeah, it's just
the
a
lowest
suggestion.
Speed, hence limit.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the limit.
The limit.
Slowest speed.
Slowest speed you can go. Well, I believe that New Jersey and think that. You don't pump your gas in New Jersey. So you guys that live in other states, it's kind of foreign to. Do you tip the person or not? So I was kind of in that dilemma, but the day that it was snowing, I was glad that somebody was putting gas in my car. And
Absolutely.
So I gave them a couple bucks and told them thank you. And it wasn't that bad at all. A lot of places. So I was up there to evaluate a lot of 7-Elevens. And for those of you who live in an area where you have a 7-Eleven, imagine 7-Elevens with no gas pumps. Because you have to pay somebody to sit out there all the time and pump gas.
Didn't think about that.
So
straight up convenience store.
A lot of them were just convenience stores. Very strange. So they might be in the middle of a strip mall instead of on a corner with a lot of pumps and stuff like we would have here in Texas.
Sure.
So just some stuff was kind of different. you couldn't buy alcohol at 7-Eleven. There's no beer sales or anything. A lot of restaurants didn't have it. I thought that was just kind of a different area of the country, just some different things. But the food was good, of course, and the people were nice, and I had a good trip.
That's good. So let's see. My March, my wife's birthday is in March, so we did our celebration stuff and everything like that. I was trying to think of what else went on. It was busy. I know that. We always have things going on. I can't think of anything else that really went on. Obviously, baseball season is back, so we'll transition to that here in a second because I've been watching a lot of baseball.
Yeah, me too. I've actually watched some this year.
Tim, any investment things to talk about? I know we usually kind of cover that.
Well, a couple of cryptos are doing okay just because Elon Musk keeps pushing them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think that it's really pushing them too hard or pushing them over the hump. Most stocks are still down. I'm
telling you, my 401k looks more like a 201k.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Right. So. And so, I've been buying more gold and silver and stocking up in those areas. Actually thinking of transitioning to physical gold coins stuff. I have a lot of people will say I've actually been doing some research, and we'll discuss this about actual coins, silver and gold coins versus bars. Oh. Because if you give me a bar, what do you think the chances are I'm going to think it's real? I'm going to be like, I want to scratch it, whatever. I'm going to worry that something else is mixed in there. If you give me silver coins, I'm probably going to believe you.
Sure.
They're going to be minted. They're going to look like a coin.
Right.
They may have a little bit mixed in them, but they're going to hold their value, I think. So I'm actually thinking about investing a little bit each month into some gold and silver coins, real silver and real gold coins.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's where my investment tip of the month is, to look into. When I say I'm investing in gold, it's usually some kind of fund,
right?
An ETF or something, and I think I want to start investing more into the actual gold stuff itself.
That's a good idea. I know that right now a lot of people are doing bonds, because bonds are paying really well.
Yeah.
So, Federal Reserve bonds specifically. Mm-hmm. So, if you're looking for somewhere to park your money.
The bond market is pretty hot right now.
Yeah, exactly. That may be a good way.
But inflation is, anytime the stock market is down, bond markets are usually a good place.
Yeah. Steven says, no 7-Eleven here in Albany, except on my train layout. So, there you go. Joe says, dividends. I pin my own gold. It costs me more in gas than it's actually worth, but it's a fun hobby. So dividends are always good. So I have several dividend stocks that I own. In fact, most of them, Tim, are ETFs for the most part, exchange traded funds that do dividends and things. I have
a few.
I'm in a Vanguard, a high yield dividend account, and a Schwab high yield dividend ETF. And both those do pretty decently. I know a lot of people, Tim, that are doing that for retirement. Mm-hmm. So they're putting all their money in those ETFs. And here's the thing: it doesn't matter if the stock goes up or down. You're getting the dividends, right?
Right.
And so that's the nice thing about that. So, it's just that is definitely a way to go. And it's kind of nice because you do kind of get guaranteed money with dividends.
I agree.
Something to think about too. Okay. Well, let us know how your physical gold coins work out.
That's kind of what I'm looking for to. Maybe I've got some coins that I want to trade in that aren't real gold or silver, but I'm thinking about trading them in to get some that are. And that's one thing. I've kind of been on a nostalgia kick. We'll get into it. Just we had a friend, and if you're watching tonight, a lot of you guys would know him, who bought a storage locker, and inside it was a lot of old baseball cards. And it got me to thinking, man, I still got some cards somewhere around, but I think I traded a bunch of them off for an error card, and I still have the error card. And he said, well, that error card's pretty expensive. And I was like, really? So I went and found the error card, and sure enough, if you grade it, it can get several $100s. So, but then I found a bunch of other cards that I thought maybe one day could be worth something, and it turns out, after 30 years, some of them are up in value. Some of them haven't gained much at all, but, it got me. I have a lot of unopened stuff. For those of you who don't know, during the 89, 90 era, when I was in college, I worked at a card shop, and most of the time I just worked for cards. I love to trade. At that time, I was opening brand new packs of Ken Griffey Jr.'s and stuff, and I was trading them for old stuff. Because I knew I wasn't spending that much money, and if you told me that card was worth $20 right then, I could get a Don Mattingly rookie, or I could get a Nolan Ryan, or I could even get a, for $100 I could get a Mantle or something. Now, a lot of my older football cards and stuff in the personal collection have gone up. But I'm not in it to sell it. They're in it for fun. So I've had more fun. I've opened some new stuff. The hobbies definitely went crazy. I think we're kind of in another era where it's probably a lot more cards out there than people want to admit. But it's still fun to pull a Patrick Mahomes or something out of a football card rack, I have to admit, or an AJ Mentor or whatever.
I was gonna say nowadays though it's what would you call it? It's forced rarity.
Yeah.
Where they'll
like an autograph card.
Right, exactly. They will release a card in
one
only
of 100. Yeah, the 1-of-1s are really
right. It's
popular.
literally a 1-of-1 card. There is only one of it, and so it's this forced scarcity.
Right.
And so, like you said, there'll be a lot of cards. There's probably more cards out there now. It's just that there are also these rare cards out there that you always have an opportunity to get as well.
And so, let's say your favorite player is Aaron Judge. You may want 50 variations or 500 variations of cards, and you collect them all. So maybe it's a different style of collecting than I'm used to. But I'm still having fun because I'm still going through some of my unopened stuff, which we're going to get to really soon. So we can get through some stuff. We'll get to that in a minute.
Actually, you don't want to get to it now?
Oh, sure
It's kind of in the middle of investment and sports talk.
All right.
So Joe says, I know you have some of those Marvel Comics cards from back then. I used to have Marvel Comics and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards.
I had Garbage Pail cards. I had Star Wars cards, Charlie's Angels cards, stuff like that. And a lot of those probably are not worth a lot, but my deal with my cards was I had Larry Bird rookies and things like that. I played with them and I traded them, and all of mine probably have the ones that grew up in my personal collection from the 80s are pretty rough, some of them, because I played with them and I looked at them.
So let's repeat what we're doing here.
So I went through my collection and just thought I'd grab a pack, and maybe we'll do this once a month or when it's baseball season. This one we think is an 88 Donruss.
It's definitely
pack.
an 88.
88 Donruss. It says Leaf on the back. I don't know if these are Leaf cards or Donruss cards. Sometimes you can see what the bottom card is, and I can't really see on this one. Can you tell what that one is?
I definitely see a stat line. It says Major League something.
One of the fun things today is you can send this whole pack to be graded.
Oh, wow.
And people are just like, and so you can have a graded pack, which I may do some of that, but grading cards is a whole different story. So
we're 80s fans around here. Obviously, we like arcade games. So tonight, we are going to open a 1988 Donruss pack of cards.
Right.
And we're going to find out what's in it. Go for it, Tim.
Okay. So definitely, these are what they call wax packs. I don't think Donruss didn't have the gum. That was Top.
Yeah.
That always had the gum. So there's the wrapper. Hasn't been opened here. We got a puzzle piece.
Oh, puzzle.
Which Donruss was known to come with those. Okay. So these are, looks like, these are 88 Donruss for sure. Okay. So we're just going to go through the cards. So we got Bob Seaver here, John.
Of the Montreal Expos, for those of you guys who are fans.
Leon Durham
of the Chicago Cubs.
Okay, so we're hoping to hit Greg Maddux, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, what else is in 88?
Yeah, that's
Bo Jackson, or somebody like that. So we got Dwayne Buse, we don't remember.
Busey? Buse for the Los Angeles Angels. Actually, this would have been California Angels at this point, probably.
Right. Steve Kiefer.
Okay. Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay.
Steve
so far,
Kiefer.
We're batting 0. all it takes is one card.
Joe says he'll give you $5 if you eat the gum, but there was no gum.
No gum. I'll bring a Topps pack next time, though. Carmelo Martinez
of the Padres, San Diego.
All right, we got a couple names here I actually recognize.
I recognize that's
Mariano Duncan.
Okay, Mariano Duncan of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Okay, this is probably the best card so far. All of Andre Dawson.
Andre Dawson.
Right,
wow. And it says it's an MVP card.
MVP card.
MVP, of course, Chicago Cubs. You guys, most people know Andre Dawson, yes? So I also know him pretty well.
Okay, Gino
Petrali.
Petrali with the Rangers.
So I know him.
Yeah.
So this is Gino Petrali of the Texas Rangers.
Right. Okay. So then we have Mark Clear.
Okay, Mark Clear of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay, Wally Backman.
Wally Backman of the New York Mets.
Dan Plessick.
Plessick. That's Plessick.
Plessick?
Yeah, Dan Plessick.
Okay.
Of the Milwaukee Brewers as well. A lot of Milwaukee Brewers.
And we got another Ranger here, Jonathan. Kurt Wilkerson.
Yes. Kurt Wilkerson. I do not remember him as much. Shortstop, second baseman, it says. I don't know how long he was with us. It says he was with the Rangers 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. That's actually a little bit before my time.
Okay.
But Kurt Wilkerson. So,
okay. Then we got Jeff Dedman.
Yeah. Jeff Dedman. Yeah.
He's probably dead by now.
Atlanta Braves.
He's probably a dead man by now.
Yeah.
Jesse Orozco.
Yep. Oh, Jesse Orozco, Tim.
Okay.
New York Mets.
Yep. And the last card, no real bangers here, Jose De Leon.
Oh, Jose De Leon of the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, White Sox. Okay.
So you want me to repeat these real quick?
Well, I don't think we're retiring this month. For those, but
definitely not. So Steven says, "Oh, I've got old gum on the bottom of my Addams Family pin. I never scrape off." Yeah, people put gum there. It is what it is. So we've got Jose De Leon was the last one for the Chicago White Sox. I'll hand these back to you, Tim, and we'll read them off. Jesse Orozco for the New York Mets, which I think was a pretty big name, Tim. Good ERA in '83 anyway.
Yeah.
So Jeff Dedman of the Atlanta Braves. Kurt Wilkerson of the Texas Rangers, which I don't remember for some reason.
Okay, I don't remember him either.
I don't remember. Probably 89 was really when I got into it more. So
these are in very good condition.
Oh,
I will say that much. They feel like brand new.
Of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay.
Wally Backman, second baseman for the New York Mets.
I can remember that name.
Mark Clear, he's a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, not too clear on Mark.
Gino Petrali, catcher, Texas Rangers. Okay. I do know Gino.
Remember him?
I remember Gino. Back in Arlington Stadium, Tim.
Okay.
A long time ago. Andre Dawson, like you said, outfielder for the Cubs.
We're going to put him in the top.
About to say, he looks very awkward
MVP
here.
too.
I don't know. Like, you see, it looks like he's like leaning back or something.
Yeah.
You see this here? I'm going to put it up to the...
It's kind of got...
I don't know if we can get a good picture of it. We got too much
Jerry
glare
Curl
there.
going on.
Got something going on there.
Yeah, it's a nice 80s look. And this is MVP card. I think this is the pick of the litter.
Yeah.
I'll show you something cool in a second.
Mariano Duncan, shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, somehow that name rings a bell. Like he
Carmelo Martinez, San Diego Padres, outfielder.
Okay.
Steve Kiefer, third baseman for the Milwaukee Brewers. I bet my uncle would know all the Milwaukee Brewers. Huge Brewers fan, yeah. And we have Dwayne Busey.
Okay.
Of the California Angels, Tim.
He pitched for
looks like he's a pitcher.
California at one time.
Yeah,
he's a rookie too.
Yeah.
Rookie card.
Rookie card. Bob Sebra, pitcher for the Montreal Expos, which is something we don't think about very often anymore. So there you go. And then the last one was Leon Durham of the Cubs, first baseman.
All right. So that's cool. Well, we'll do something wild.
Joe says that's a thick pack. Mine always had like 8 cards in the pack. How many cards were in that pack?
Oh, these are the old school packs. Yeah, these are the good ones. I think they have 20 probably. Collect 63 pieces to complete the puzzle. 3 puzzle
15.
pieces, 15.
15 cards?
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
Old school.
Even though I don't know many of the names. I know Gino Petrali.
Well, we know Andre Dawson.
Obviously. So
now we do the new school way, John. So, this is not 1988 anymore.
I'm not going to get my Beckett out?
No, you don't have to get your Beckett out. We're going to scan him and see what he's worth.
Oh, look at this. You can scan the cards. That is amazing. Even you and me, I don't know. Let's see what he's worth. A whole 15 cents, probably.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to bet on a quarter.
Oh, quarter? Man, you're almost doubling my price.
Considering I probably paid at least $1 for this. Oh, he's worth 10 cents.
Oh, 10 cents. I said 15. I was over 5 cents.
And this was the MVP year. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so, yeah, that wasn't what one guy say I follow sometimes on TikTok. A lot of hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
Yeah. Some paperweights there, but a lot of fun. So, anyway, maybe we'll have better luck next month or something.
Oh, it was worth it. It was fun.
Yeah,
nothing else. I got to see some old baseball players and relive some childhood memories.
Yeah.
So, Gino
I'll have to get a Tops package so we can chew the gum.
I'm not eating the gum. So So
it wasn't even that good when it
I
was
was about
fresh.
to say.
You know, it was kind of
probably broken into a million pieces by this
crappy
point,
gum, even at the time. Maybe the puzzle pieces were something.
I don't know. That's a good
Somebody's
question. If you get
trying to
enough
put-
of them, probably.
Somebody's trying to put that puzzle together somewhere. They
Exactly.
need number 17. They're just going, somebody on eBay,
that's right.
please, just put 17. So one piece I need. But
There you go. So,
Anyway.
live opening of a baseball card pack from 88.
hope you liked it. Just thought we'd do something different. We like to mix it up here. So, speaking of baseball cards and baseball season, though.
Oh, he said if you both sign it, it'll be worth 11 cents. Probably less. We'll probably devalue it. It'll be worth
Right.
like 3 cents at that point. So, yes, baseball season is here. So, that's a good reminder, Tim. Now, let's talk a little bit. Have you watched a game yet?
Yes, I watched the Rangers play the other night.
So, what do you think of the new rules?
Okay.
So let's talk about the new rules real quick. Pitch clock.
All right.
So the batter has, I think it's 11 seconds to get into the batter's box, and the pitcher has 19 seconds to throw the pitch.
Right.
Okay, and so if the batter is not ready in time, he can be called on strike. And if the pitcher isn't ready on time, he can be called for a balk. Okay, so a balk.
A balk, so he goes on base.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, there are penalties to this. Okay, it really does seem to be moving the game along quickly.
Right.
Is it just me? Have you noticed that?
No, I did notice that, and I'm kind of a fan. I kind of like it because, and you don't have it just seemed like sometimes a little overboard, or they'd step out of the box, and and you're staring down the pitcher. You don't have a lot of that. It seems like now, it's 19 seconds in between pitches.
It's 18
I
or
thought
19 and something like that.
I thought it was
19.
faster than that, but that's not.
No,
it's really not that bad.
And so like I think the batter has 11. The first 11 seconds, the batter has to get ready. So the batter has to be ready by the end of that 11, and then the pitcher from 11 to 19 has that time. He has to throw the ball somewhere in between there.
Okay.
So that's how it works. And
have you seen a lot of violations? I didn't see too many the
I
other night.
saw somebody. I think it was Manny. What's the guy's name for the Padres? He got struck out on it. The batter was not ready, and he got a strike called on it, and it was a final strike.
Wow.
So I've seen that.
Okay.
Manny Machado. I think it was Manny Machado.
Okay.
So he actually got called on that for the Padres. So I haven't seen too many other violations besides that, though.
No.
There's going to be more balks this year just because of that.
I think so.
And I want to say it's a balk. It may be a ball on that. But the one thing that is a balk is if you can only throw over to a base 3 times. Okay? On the 3rd time, if you don't pick off the guy, it's a balk.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a good rule, though.
I think you're right on the pitching. I think you're right on the pitching. It's a ball if the pitcher doesn't throw it in time. Like it's an automatic ball. But if on the 3rd time, if you throw it over there and you don't pick the guy off, that is a balk. So he gets a free base.
Wow. So you don't, not all day just throwing and throwing.
You get 1, you get 2. That 3rd time, you better get him.
Right.
Okay. So what this is, and they made the bases larger slightly.
Okay.
So what this has done is it's shortened the distance between all the bases because all the bases are bigger. And what that's done is it's encouraged people to steal. And so we've seen more steals already this year than we saw almost all of last year, just because of that. I think they were saying something like that. So, I mean, overall, you like all the rules, though, is what you're saying.
I think so. I think I am not opposed to speeding up the game just a little bit.
Yeah. And so what this has done, basically, is cut about 30 minutes off each game, roughly. Some games are over in 2 hours now, which is unheard of. If it's like a pitcher's duel and nobody hardly scores, I mean, you could have a 2-hour game. So, I mean, that's exciting in a way.
But I'll say this much: I never really had that big a problem with it in the beginning.
Yeah.
We still, especially when we go to the game, we didn't feel.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like. I don't know that it was needed to be fixed, but I'm not opposed to it either.
I think for a younger generation, though, they want the game to move. And the one thing I noticed, Tim, is that the game moves now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it moves.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. It feels like it's speeding along. The batters are getting in the box faster. Everything just happens faster. And so it's harder to take your eye off the game. Like before, I'd do it in the background, and I'd watch a game kind of in the background. It's hard to do that because things are happening. Like, it's moving along, and you're like, okay, there's not really a whole lot of delay between pitches or anything. It's like, we got to get this stuff on. So I do like the rule changes. The funny thing is that I like the speed of the game. If it's a game where, like the first 2 Ranger games where we're scoring like over 10 runs, I like the fact that the games are shorter. But then when it's a pitcher's duel and the game's coming in under 2 hours, I feel like I got gypped. I'm like, I wanted a little bit longer game there. But, you can't have it both ways.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? You just can't. So overall, I think I like it too. We'll see how it plays out more, I think, as we continue on. So,
all right.
But let's talk about the Rangers. So you watched some Ranger games?
Yes.
So we've had 6 games so far. How many have you watched?
We watched part of 2 of them.
Okay.
So I haven't watched a complete game, but I watched about 6 innings the other night of one. Definitely.
Sunday night game?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely got a good hitting team. We're definitely making contact.
You have a good pitching team for the most part too?
I'm feeling pretty good about our team this year. I don't know that we're, early favorites or anything, but at the same time, we're definitely improved.
So did you watch the WBC at all? World Baseball Classic? Okay.
I did. Just some highlights. I did watch just a little bit of it.
Did you see the duel between Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout?
Yes.
Do you know that one moment in sports history was watched by over 97% of televisions in Japan?
Wow. 97%. Wow.
Okay. I watched it. It was fantastic. The World Baseball Classic was fun. It really was. And I enjoyed watching it. I'm glad that Major League Baseball season is back. But at the very last at bat of the WBC was Mike Trout coming up against Shohei Ohtani. And Shohei Ohtani struck him out. We had men on base. And we could have tied it up or won, but USA versus Japan.
I will trade that whole pack for Shohei
Ohtani. I'm sure you will. So if you have not seen Shohei Ohtani, if you've not watched Angels games, he is like the second coming of Babe Ruth, maybe better.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like so recent, like I have recency bias, right? Like, this is new.
There's nobody
Watch
like
this
him
dude.
right now. Yeah.
He can pitch over 100 miles per hour.
Right.
Okay, you should see how his stuff moves. It is insane. You should see him hit.
Right.
He is fantastic.
And fast.
He's a top 10 hitter and a top 10 pitcher.
Right.
Okay, in Major League Baseball.
Right.
And he may even be top 5 in both those categories. Think about that for a second. When was the last time that we saw anybody like that?
It's been a long time.
So I don't care if you don't like the Angels. Look, I don't like the Angels either. They're in our division. You need to watch this guy play. And the World Baseball Classic was like the opportunity to watch him play.
And he was
on
fire.
He was on. It was fantastic. So if you don't check out Angels games, you need to watch Shohei Ohtani no matter what. The guy is amazing. And I don't know if he would have grown up in the United States. I don't think he would have been able to do both. I don't think we encourage that here. In Japan, I think he just was blessed with being in a place where they were going to nurture both of his skill sets. But I don't think
he's very good at both.
I think here a coach would tell you need to pick. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't, and he was able not to. And he is a maybe once in a generation talent.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see anybody like him again. I mean, I'd like to think we will. We probably will, but maybe not in our lifetime.
Speaking of once in a generational talent, I really got into, did you watch the women's NCAA final?
I did not. I know LSU pulled it out.
Yeah.
But I heard all the controversy.
Yeah, a little bit of controversy.
But I did not watch it.
Okay.
So, but I heard it was good.
Yeah. Caitlin is that's what the LSU coach called her. You're a generational player.
Yeah.
And
I've heard she's really good.
She is very good. Maybe if you could get one right now, they're too expensive. I would definitely be one of the first women basketball cards I would like to own. Sure. She's awesome.
That's awesome.
And, so I thought.
And now we have the WNBA, so she actually has a chance. I mean, we don't always have that, and so now she has a chance. She
literally will walk in at probably being one of the top 5 players. Wow. I think she's good. She's just really good and unselfishly good. But so then the NCAA tournament was good too. There was a lot of good games there. So.
I did not fill out my bracket.
Yeah, I
was really pulling for Texas, but what the heck? Miami?
Right.
We can't take out Miami. Anyway.
A lot of upsets. There were some good.
Tons of upsets.
I don't know. If you won that, man, you're lucky.
Yeah,
it wasn't skill. That was luck.
You got to be a time traveler on that one.
Yeah.
Time traveler. So, no, but so baseball season is here. Texas Rangers right now, as we sit, Tim, are 4-2. Which is a really great record. We swept the Phillies, who were in the World Series last year. Of course, they don't have Bryce Harper and some of their other players, but still, I feel good about that. We couldn't beat the freaking Baltimore Orioles, except for yesterday when Jacob DeGrom pitched.
He pitched a good game.
Yes, he did. Jacob DeGrom is awesome. Again, you want to talk about top 10 pitchers, Tim? Definitely another top 10 pitcher, Jacob DeGrom. Was with the Mets. We signed him in the off-season to some ridiculous contract. I have 6 years, something. Some $30 million a year. I don't know, something like that. But he showed why yesterday when he pitched. So it's worth it. If you're a fan of any baseball teams, though, let us know in the live chat. I want to hear what you guys think of your teams. Look. The Houston Astros are going to be really good again. Okay, the Dodgers are going to be really good. Atlanta, I expect, will be
I wouldn't
really
count
good.
the Yankees out.
Yankees are really good. The Padres have really improved.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll be able to take the Dodgers because that's the same division. But Toronto is really good, which may give the Yankees a run for their money. The Rays, I think, are still undefeated, which are also in the AL East with the Yankees.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, the Rays, man, their brain trust over there. They figure out a way to get maximum value out of everybody over there. I have no idea, and nobody goes to their games. Rays games are the most they have the worst attendance in all of baseball. They have the smartest, most efficient front office in baseball, and nobody goes to their games. I feel so sorry for them, but I think there's and Tim, this is first year for manager Bruce Bochy, who managed the Giants when we were in the World Series in 2010 and beat us, if you remember, and also has 2 other World Series wins under his belt, plus another World Series appearance under his belt.
That's a pretty good resume.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking forward to having Boch on our side this year. I think it's going to be a fun year for Ranger fans. I think it's going to be a fun year for a lot of teams. I think there's a lot of teams that are in it. You know what I'm saying? There's not a whole lot that I see that are tanking. There are some, but it seems like it's few and far between. And it's more fun when there's more teams in it, when less teams are tanking. The Angels, you think would be good, having the 2 best players in baseball, arguably, in Shohei Ohtani and Trout. But for some reason, they just find ways to lose. I haven't figured it out yet. Because you can have the 2 best players in baseball, but baseball is not basketball. No. It is very much a team sport. Okay.
Well, look at the Mavericks.
Okay, let's transition to NBA, everybody. So, NBA postseason is coming up, Tim. A lot of great teams in the mix right now. Mavericks, I don't know, are going to be one of them. Obviously, we had the big trade for Kyrie Irving, which was really fun when it happened. But now it seems like every crack that we have has shown, and we're going to be lucky to get into the play-in. So, but there's a lot of good teams in it. It's going to be fun to watch the postseason. Postseason basketball is fun. Or I say postseason, that's what baseball calls it. Playoffs are fun. They really are. So I'm looking forward to that. Current Phonograph says his team's the Los Angeles Angels. See, fun team to watch. I love the Angels. I wish they would figure out a way to win. I mean, they have 2 really great players, and hopefully this year maybe they'll figure it out. But things are different this year in baseball too. You're not playing your division as much. They stopped that, and so maybe that'll help them. Maybe it'll help us. I don't know. So back to basketball for a second, Tim. A lot of good teams out there right now. So I think it's gonna be a really interesting.
Who's
playoffs.
your favorite? If you had to lay money on somebody winning it all today, who would you say? This is probably the favorite team.
Nah, I couldn't even tell you. I don't know if I kept up with enough teams to know who the tippity top is. Do you have one that you're thinking of?
I guess that the Clippers are probably still going to be hard to beat. Yeah. I don't know.
The Suns.
Yeah,
the Suns are good. They got better because they got KD, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, golly, probably the Suns.
Probably, I agree.
Golden State.
That's what I'm saying.
Can you not? Yeah, can you not? I mean, hard to pick against them.
That's what I meant. The Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors. You said the Clippers, right?
I meant the Warriors.
Okay, the Warriors hard to vote against them.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
Warriors are going to definitely be in there.
The Suns, if KD is healthy, I mean, golly, look at that team. Oh, that's a tough team. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm looking at the playoffs. So and look, the Warriors are good. There's gonna be a lot of good teams. It's gonna be tough. And basketball is so streaky. I mean, we saw that with the Mavericks last year. We got on a hot streak.
And we talked about the NFL, a lot of trades, a lot of stuff. Cowboys cut pretty good pretty major player.
Yeah, I wouldn't say good. I'd say major. Well, it needed to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we cut Zeke Elliott. That's a big deal. But guys, we all know
Pollard.
Pollard is better.
Yeah, but has anybody signed him?
No.
Nobody.
And we may re-sign him.
That's what I'm saying. Where's he going to go?
Yeah, I hope we don't. In a way.
Me too. I'm like, but you would think he'd have value to somebody.
Have you heard? Okay, our draft number is 14, 15. We're in the teens somewhere.
Yeah.
Have you heard have you looked at any mock drafts?
Yes.
Okay, so who do most people say that we have? Have you heard of one in particular?
Yeah, from Texas.
Yes, Bijan.
Bijan.
Okay, so Bijan seems to be like a once-in-a-generation running back.
Yeah.
I do not like taking running backs in the first round. Because they're not first round anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's more about wide receivers now.
Right.
We're a throwing game now, okay? If you're a running back, you better be able to catch out of the backfield because, I mean, that's what you should be doing most of the time. I mean, you're going to be running every so often.
It'd be hard to pass him up, though.
Right. If Bijan's there, the Cowboys should take him.
They probably will.
But at the same time, I really don't want another first-round running back.
Well, they're also talking about getting Derrick Henry, too, though.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of trades.
Zeke needed to go
happen.
though, and I mean I like Zeke as much as the next guy, but as long as he was sitting there making that money, they were going to feel the pressure to play him, and we all know Tony Pollard's better.
Yep.
So I mean, as long as Tony Pollard comes back from his injury and is back at 100% or even 90%, I think we'll be fine. We'll see. Running backs just aren't worth what they used to be. There was a time when running backs were worth a lot, and the game was more focused on the running back. But now it's more of an air raid throwing style.
Sure, it's nice to have somebody though can get a yard if you need it.
Sure.
That's where this Derrick Henry or somebody really comes.
But I mean, look at the other teams in the league, and what have they transitioned to? Quarterbacks getting that for the most part. I mean, there are still some running backs who'll get the ball on a 1 yard, but a lot of times it's a quarterback,
if
right?
You can't get a yard,
Yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, you see quarterbacks with legs have kind of replaced what a traditional running back position would do, right? I mean, not always. You still have running backs. So, anyway. That's football. Hockey, real quick. The Dallas Stars have clinched the playoffs, too.
Nice.
The postseason, or playoffs. So, we will be going on to the playoffs. And if you ever watch playoff hockey, super fun. Okay? Because it's like the whole rink shrinks because everything moves faster in the playoffs.
Seems like
so
it.
when you're watching playoff hockey, it's
Everything's
super fun.
on the line.
Yeah, exactly. So like people skate, it's like they're all amped up, I guess, and people skate faster on the rink. So I love playoff hockey. I'm looking forward to it. And Tim, since we already clinched, guess what? We get to run the scrubs out there. That's what I'm talking about. Get the scrubs some time to get their skills sharpened before we go into the playoffs. So looking forward to that. Let's see. Anything else, Tim? XFL talk. The Renegades suck. DC looks really good. Golly, DC may be still. I think DC just lost their first game. Game. Houston is good. St. Louis, the Battlehawks are good. AJ McCarron is he's a good quarterback. He's going to end up playing in the NFL at some point.
I think so.
Yeah. So, USFL, Tim, you going to watch?
No. Probably not.
Okay.
Nothing there.
Okay, that's enough for sports. Do sports arcade games sell well? Are they popular? So he said NBA Jam. NBA Jam is one of the most popular arcade games for its time. NFL Blitz, both those games are... I mean, there's a reason why they made multiple sequels of each of those. NBA Jam. NBA Jam Tournament Edition. Let's see. NBA Jam Maximum Hang Time. Or Hang Time, Maximum Hang Time. NBA Showtime.
Right.
There's a reason you make 5 sequels of something. It's because it sells and does really well.
Sure.
NFL Blitz. NFL Blitz 99. NFL Blitz 2000. Okay, there's a reason why they made multiples. Is because...
Golden Tee.
Golden Tee. Yeah, Golden Tee's still going.
Right.
Big Buck Hunter.
So, sport games I think are always going to play a part.
Yeah. Golden Tee spun off into bags, into what other games, Tim? Target Toss.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, golly.
What's the bowling game?
Silver Strike.
Silver Strike. Kind of like that. A lot of those were off of that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been so many. I mean, as far as sports arcade games, for the most part, they're some of the biggest. There's some heavy hitters in there. NFL Blitz, people still love, obviously. I mean, Arcade 1-Up just made that cabinet. They had to take out some of the stuff. NBA Jam, they made a cabinet of, but NBA Jam still does well at several locations. So sports arcade games usually do very well on location. I was trying to think if there's one in particular. Like, we've never really had one out on location, I don't think, Tim. I don't think really... I mean, we never really had... We've had them, but we never put them out on route.
No, we played them.
That's right. I've got a Blitz Showtime over there, which is like one of my favorite games. So, let's see. Joe says that Leyland baseball game was crazy fun. Don't think it was popular though. I do remember that one. And Tim, what's one of our favorite ones? That the pinball one. That the pitch and bat.
Oh yeah.
What is that one called? I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, my mind's going blank right now. But
Slugfest. Is it that? I can't remember. So Stan has one of those. That's
Slugfest. That's fun.
So so many great sports games. Baseball is really hard to translate into an arcade game, I feel like. But World Series 99 by Sega is probably one of my favorites. And that's the one where you have the bat. And you pull the bat back, and then when the ball comes, you let it go, and it swings. So there's some really cool sports games out there. And Tim, what I see on the regular now is the Mario Sonic Olympics game. Like pretty much every arcade I've been to recently has that one.
Nice.
And I mean that's a sports game technically. I don't know. I was trying to think of other ones that I see when I'm at when we're at Dave and Buster's and stuff like that.
You always have the basketball hoop game
you got
and the
basketball
football
games, air hockey,
stuff
like that. So Okay, let's see. Movies and TV shows, Tim?
Okay.
Okay, why don't you tell me what TV shows, movies you got?
Well, the one that I just finished watching in about 3 days was The Night Agent. Have you seen this?
This is on my list. I saw it was like the most watched series on Netflix in a long time.
Yeah.
Really good?
It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. And I like the story. I like everything about it. It's a good, a little cheesy at the, some people will say that. I also say it was a really good movie for me and my wife.
Okay.
Okay, because if you told me to pick a movie, I'm picking something like Taken every night, right?
Yeah, sure.
Lots of action, lots of fighting. She doesn't like to hear broken bones and snapped necks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, but there's a good storyline. She was really into this show.
Okay.
She loved it,
Oh,
and
nice.
we both liked it. So it was a good show for both of us to watch. If you haven't seen it, I know everybody's already found out they're already said they'll make a season 2. It left you thinking, okay, there'll be a season 2. So you didn't even know the storyline or anything?
I don't. And
Okay.
I well, if you want to summarize it, don't give away any spoilers.
No spoilers. Basically, he gets hurt, and they give him an office, cushy job at the White House, working the night desk, and with the phone that never rings. And one night it rings, and so
Interested already.
He comes. All of a sudden he becomes an important person.
Okay.
And that's the story. That's the most I'll give you. Just so you need to watch it. He's kind of a washed out FBI agent who all of a sudden finds a purpose in being the night agent. And so very good, very very good.
Okay.
Watch it.
Okay. Anything else?
Other than that, I've been watching some documentary about on Hulu called. I think it's called What Really Happened to Morgan or something, about a little girl that went missing. I think it's very interesting. I haven't finished it yet to tell you. I'm hoping that it has some kind of good ending, but basically an unsolved murder from like 29 years ago. A girl disappears at a little kid's baseball game where there's cars and people everywhere. And somebody
I think I've heard about this one. Yeah.
snags her. And then a new sheriff comes into town. He goes, hey, these guys didn't quit on you. They worked really hard, but now we're going to take it to another level. We got technologies and things, and we're going to go back and we're going to solve this murder. So I hope they solve it. I got a couple episodes to watch.
Nice.
That's about it. I really got into The Night Agent when I watched it. In between that, watching a little baseball and just some odds and ends stuff. Nothing really major. I haven't been to the movies or anything, although I really want to go. And we may go tomorrow, but there's just not a ton out that is good that we both want to see.
You need to go see Air.
Air looks really good.
It came out.
Yeah, Air I want to see. I don't know how Dawn will feel about watching it, but Air, if I don't get to see it at the movies, I will definitely be renting it as soon as it comes out.
Looks really good.
It looks great.
So let's talk about what I saw. I saw one movie that wasn't Tetris or Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game, and that was Cocaine Bear.
Oh, okay.
So I've seen Cocaine Bear. It's on demand right now. Tim, it has Matthew Rhys in it. It has Kerry Russell. It has Margot Martindale, which are all from The Americans, which I was a huge Americans fan. It is directed by Elizabeth Banks, who you probably have seen in other films as an actress. And it also has Ray Liotta in it, Tim.
Okay.
So, and it's about a guy throws. It's based on a true story in the 80s. In the 80s, takes place in the 80s.
Okay.
About a drug dealer who threw a bunch of cocaine out of this plane, and some bears end up finding it.
Okay.
That is literally, and then the rest of it, things happen. Right, exactly. Right. And so it is ridiculous. It is over the top. It is short. It's it's probably an hour and a half, a little bit over. And look, it's not going to win any awards, but if you just want some funny, ridiculous entertainment, it is definitely that.
Okay.
Okay. So I mean, I'm not saying you should watch it. Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying, look, I just want to watch something that I don't have to think about, and I just want
some mindless.
Yes,
TV
exactly. I just want something that takes my mind off.
You've had a rough day at work or whatever, just gonna come in and watch something, just so you don't have to think about nothing else but a crazy bear.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's when you watch it. You don't watch it when you want a good movie,
right?
Because it's not really a good movie.
Not a life changer,
right? But it's got great actors in it, and actresses, which is crazy, and they actually do pretty good in it. I mean, Ray Liotta obviously passed away, Tim, so they devoted the movie to him, but he does really great in it. Kerry Russell, I've always liked. I always thought she was good. Matthew Rhys, of course, is one of my favorite actors. I'm watching Perry Mason on HBO with him right now.
Okay.
But I mean, it is really just ridiculous, over the top ridiculous. I think they're making a sequel. if you just want mindless fun, it is what it is. I mean, like, don't watch it because like I said, you want to watch something. Yeah, it's not really funny. It's just ridiculous.
Okay,
so,
ridiculous.
There you go. So, you may wait till it comes on a streaming service like Netflix. I don't know if I'd spend the on-demand money like I did. Okay. That's up to you. So I mentioned I've been watching season 2 of Perry Mason, which is really good.
I've been wanting to see that.
So far, better than the first season to me.
Okay.
So I would recommend that. We've been watching Ted Lasso. Just came out with season 3. It's fantastic. I think so. A lot of people are. I don't know if they're just getting tired of the formula because it is kind of formulaic, but it's really good to me. I like it. I'll keep watching it. One thing I have not seen, but we plan on watching again is Schmigadoon, which is season 2 is now out, and that is about these people who get stuck in a musical. So the first season was about like the early musicals, kind of like Hello Dolly style. The second one is more like modern musicals, like Chicago. They get stuck in these modern musicals. So we're kind of interested in that. How I Met Your Father is on Hulu. We've been watching through that. It's really good. I've been watching The Mandalorian season 3.
Yes.
And it's really good. Highly recommend it. I've been watching so much stuff, I can't name everything. All the stuff from last month, I'm still watching.
Right.
Okay, I literally have too much to watch.
I got to finish up some of my old stuff.
So, but if you want to add something new to your list,
okay,
I do recommend Daisy Jones and the Six.
Okay.
Okay, now
this
is
even know this.
Not very well promoted. Tim, do you like music documentaries?
Yes.
Do you know the story of Fleetwood Mac at all?
Not much.
Okay.
Just that.
It is very much that.
Okay.
So it is not like word for word the whole story of Fleetwood Mac. Okay. But it is very much like that. It is told in a documentary style. It is based on a book.
Oh, we like it.
And it is really good. It is 10 episodes, and you will enjoy them all, and all 10 are now streaming. You do not have to wait. I watched through the first 8 and then didn't realize that they were releasing them weekly. And so then I was like, I had to wait 2 weeks to see the next 2. Right. But it is on Prime, and I know you guys all have Prime because it's the most subscribed to video streaming service, so all you guys have it. Yes, it is definitely worth your time. The actress that plays Daisy Jones is Elvis Presley's granddaughter.
Okay.
And she does a fantastic job.
I have heard of this. Okay. I have heard of this.
It is really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Daisy Jones and the Six.
Daisy Jones and the Six. The music is not... They made music for the show, and it's not like my favorite music. It's okay. But it goes along with the story, so you get kind of pulled into it that way. But highly recommend it. There's not enough people watching it. Daisy Jones and the Six, Prime Video, watch it. Joe Holt says, Violent Night and Cocaine Bear came out about the same time. Violent Night was decent for the first half, but failed quickly. I like Violent Night, and I would definitely say that these two movies are in the same vein.
Okay.
So if you saw Violent Night and whatever you thought of that, you'll probably think the same of Cocaine Bear.
Okay.
So, I mean, Violent Night was good. I liked it. But I also like Cocaine Bear. Neither one of these are movies that are going to just take you on this, you know what I'm saying? They're not these kind of serious movies or anything. And to be honest with you, you should only watch them if you're really bored or if you just want something that's just mindless.
I have that. I have those moments where I just want to watch something, just get off my mind off of work or anything else.
And if you're looking for that,
this is
it works. So there you go. Mr. Dwayne said, did you watch the second season of The Mighty Ducks? And is it good? I did watch the second season of The Mighty Ducks. It is not very good. In fact, they canceled it. And Tim, I don't know if you heard, they couldn't bring back Emilio Estevez for the second season. And it suffers. It suffers without him. And they try to replace him with, I forget the guy's name, but it doesn't work as well. Okay. If you're a fan of The Mighty Ducks, it's probably worth your time still. And if you're really bored, you should watch it. But if you didn't watch it, you're not missing anything. And there's not going to be a season 3. So no reason to. Let's see. I'm watching Night Court. I'm not watching American Auto. I'm watching Abbott Elementary. I'm watching, it's like, golly, so much stuff right now.
It's a lot of different services, and now it's so many options.
There's so much good stuff.
Everybody has their own good show, too. It's like there's something good on Hulu, there's something good over here, something good.
There's a lot of good stuff. So, if you're not watching stuff, you're missing out. Because, man, we're like in a TV renaissance now, Tim.
Right.
But anyway. Okay, we're done.
Yeah, we need to go.
That was fun. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you,
guys. Thank you for bringing the baseball cards.
You're welcome.
You for giving me my birthday presents. And thank you guys for being here. It was awesome. So great to have you guys here. Looking forward to May. We had 5 weeks, Tim, for this last one. 4 weeks for the next one, so it won't be quite as long. We'll look forward to seeing you then. We'll find out how your Easter went. Hopefully you had a good Easter if you celebrate that thing. And you and me are off tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping in.
Me too.
So, and then going up to church to work on stuff because, that's how it is. And looking forward to seeing the Super Mario movie on Saturday. So anyway, if you guys see it, let us know what you think too. We want to hear from you. If you want to leave it in the comment section below, you're more than welcome to. So good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Adios.
We out. Get some
night.
rest. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right.